Show the gut to the side. Look at that thing, man. Like, now that's how you start. Dude, that thing is so long. That's what we're looking for.
That thing.
That, to me, looks like a PB. What do you think? That's going over 5.
No, it's not 5, but holy crap.
Dude. Damn right. That's a 4. Dude. 4 pounder right off the bat. Here we go. Oh my God. Dude. Look at that. I have big hands. That thing's huge. Girthy. That's triple C thick.
I'm calling them today, boys.
What's going on, everybody?
Hello.
Welcome. There's that email link to me. It's doing that stupid thing again where it won't let me in my StreamYard. Oh, jeez. Mr. Joe is having issues again.
Yeah, of course he is.
Invite. All right, I'll send that along. 1 second, chat. Technical difficulties with one of our guests. Joe. Link. Is that the only email I have for him? Yep. Ah, come on. All right. Got that squared away. All right, back to the chat. All right, sorry, who we got? I got to back it up here. Ryan, what's going on? TV18, little Tommy, Gordy, Jim, Chris, Drew, Panda, Sean, Z-Fish, Brian, Dave, Chris, Ben, Donk Swampy. Hey, Donk Swampy. Hey, Ben.
Song Donkey.
Song Donkey. And Jay.
What's up,
Oh, I got to get rid of this thing. Remove from studio. Goodbye. All right, we got a lot to discuss tonight, including weekend fishing report, which actually we'll try and keep it kind of condensed on our end because, Mike, you went fishing this past weekend, correct?
I did.
Nice. Oh, and the special guests have arrived.
Hi, friends.
Yo, what's up, Mikey?
Hey.
Hi.
What's going on, boys?
What's happening, gentlemen?
Oh, everything. Oh, God, I made that
Lots.
way too loud. Oh, all right. Yeah, let's jump right into it. All right, first and foremost, thank you guys for joining us tonight for the stream so we could talk everything Topwater tonight. We're going to try and cover quite literally everything. As to the level of detail, who knows? We'll dive into it and, whatever, just let the conversation go as how it goes. But chat, keep the questions coming as we're talking over random things, and we'll do the best that we can to answer everything on the fly as we go. Probably not going to do a raffle of any sort tonight, though, just kind of keep the conversation going and not interrupt it much. But without further ado, so first off, I want to thank Mike, Joe, and surprise last-minute addition here, Oliver, all from Big Bass Dreams, joining the stream tonight. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Always, bud. Always.
And then let's do a quick recap on the weekend fishing report. And actually, I want to hear from you guys, too, how you guys did, what you're finding for water temps and everything. I mean, Oliver, I've already seen you catching a ton of big fish, you and Riley.
We've been having a little bit of fun here in the Northeast.
Just a bit. All right, so for us, we went to, where did we go? Oh, yeah, so
Yeah.
we swung for the fences trying to go for some big fish on a designated trout pond here in southern New Hampshire. That was our 5th time now in the last 5 years. And I think
Yeah.
the last time I was there 4 years ago.
The last time I went there was 2 years ago.
Okay, it's been a little while. Dude, it's a weird place. It's only 60 acres, but it's like 60 feet in the middle. Water temps were 68 to 71, depending upon where you were. And it sucked. It's weird. It's a really, Well, in the past,
It's-
it's a really clean lake.
It sucks when you show up to the boat launch and there's a dead bass on the launch.
Not what you want to see.
So we didn't really have our luck cut out for us that day there.
No, we lapped the whole pond in 2 hours. We got one rat each right as we were leaving, both on the jig. But the thing is weird, to you guys, Mike, Joe, and Oliver, you know how the lakes look in the fall when the turnover happens, especially on clear lakes, where all of a sudden it just gets there's just particulate everywhere and the water gets super stained and everything. It looked just like that. It was really weird.
This place in the spring is usually gin clear.
And just clean,
clean.
Nothing floating around. It was weird. It looked like a combination of that fall turnover and really early spring, where you get all that crap just clinging to whatever vegetation is left over. That kind of survives the winter. It's just weird. So
Yeah, I saw an obscene amount of pollen this past week
Yeah.
that
Oh
I've
my
never
God.
seen the likes of anywhere else.
Yeah, when it gets windy and it looks like something from a wildfire.
Yeah.
It's bad.
It looked like
Friggin-
fire retardant. That's what I'm
Yeah.
seeing, in our skies.
Yeah.
yeah, it was like friggin' pollen haboobs flying around everywhere. It's all of a sudden you get dust storm kicking up. This is all pollen. Every time I hit a lily pad where we were in the first pond, just when we were fishing frogs for a little bit and bring it back, just all the pollen that it collected on it just blew off the thing. We're like, ugh, that was pretty weird. But so we left there. We went to another small pond that I've been fishing since I was a wee little kid. My dad used to bring me in there all the time. Used to be good for quality. Now it's just a good place for numbers. And we still kind of got our teeth kicked in. I don't get it. It's that water there was 70 to 72.
Yeah.
I mean, it should have been well into post spawn. But I just think it was really weird conditions. We had bluebird skies. It was high pressure. It was windy on and off. It's just nothing about it brought a lot of confidence. The water temp's right. The big thing, and I'm curious for you guys if it's the same down your way, Joe and Mike, the vegetation up here is way behind schedule. Lily pads and just milfoil and everything in general. Everything's way, way, way behind.
Yeah, I mean it's 3.5, 4 weeks behind where I go.
Easily, yeah.
Yep.
Which should just, I mean, in my opinion, so when we get to the heart of summer, it's just going to condense those fish, right? Because we're not having a huge blown out vegetation year. It should be honestly easier to call our shots later. If you go back and look at Cayuga, the last time the elites were there, those guys were catching them in a lot smaller areas because that north end wasn't all blown out with grass, right? So every year when we have a really cold spring or a hard winter, that happens all the time. That's pretty commonplace. So I'm looking forward to this summer because of this spring.
Yeah. I'm hoping that's what we run into up here, but this is the first year. I mean, this 3 seasons in a row now where we've had just a really weird, prolonged, kind of colder than average, drawn out late winter, early spring pattern where it never really ever got above 50. Didn't have that many sunny days, but it lasted for 2 months when it's really should only be a 3 to 4 week long window. Actually, I feel like it lasted 2.5 months again this year. But the difference between this year and last year was last year we had a ton of rain to go with it too. This year it's just been dry with all that super cold weather. So I think we're probably depending on what body of water we go to, we're probably 4 to 6 weeks behind on everything.
Oh yeah.
There's one pond in
Easily.
particular, the one we went to yesterday, the second pond we went to that should have been overgrown with lily pads, and there was hardly anything there. It was weird, but yeah, that's how it's been for us. So I don't know. I think it was more conditions than it was water temp or timing, in relation to when the spawn happened. But that's for us in southern New Hampshire. Mike, how was where'd you end up? Obviously, you don't have to give specific location where you were, but kind of general area of your region, and water temp and all that.
Chase waypoints.
Well, I took Oliver out last week, and then up in New Jersey. We had a good time. I don't think my lakes are all behind. I think some of them are right on cue where they're supposed to be, but some of the other lakes I think are maybe 3 weeks behind. Like you said, that spring algae bloom that usually happens to turn over. Every year we go bed fishing on a lake by me, and in the spring, it's usually crystal clear. And it was like you said, it was very dirty, maybe 3 or 4 feet visibility. So it wasn't, it definitely wasn't normal.
Yep.
But then when I went, excuse me, when I went up with Oliver, we went up to upstate New York for a couple of days, and it didn't seem like it was too far behind. I mean, the grass was green. It was tall. We did catch them on topwater. They were definitely, there was some on bed still, but we saw a lot of empty beds. So
Nice.
I'm assuming it can't be. I don't think 3 weeks would be a little bit much to say, but maybe like a week.
That's not bad.
Lucky.
Yeah, we're
They
stuck.
say that dogs look like their owners, right? So kind of what I was going for.
All right, what about you, Mr. Oliver and Joe? What'd you guys find today? I didn't get to see your post yet from today.
Well, my perspective is a little different. Ignorance is bliss. I don't know where it's supposed to be. So we've just gone fishing, and frankly, I was hoping we were hitting them right in the peak of the post spawn early topwater bite before everybody's throwing a topwater before everybody else is throwing a topwater at them, because that's actually my favorite part of the year, is when I'm catching them on a frog, when people aren't even thinking about tying one on, when they're eating a popper, when they're eating a buzz bait, when they're eating a walking bait, what have you. So we found a little bit of that. Riley got a really nice one on a popper on Mike's Lake, but super post-spawn fish. Looked like what we call a windsock.
Yeah,
Our
piece of
Florida
paper.
strain bass at home especially get really sucked in after spawning. So they have giant heads and like nothing for a body.
6 pound head, 2 pound body.
Right. Dude, that thing was probably, 3 pounds maybe?
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
a big frame fish. And we went upstate and ran into a stormy condition when it called for like a 10% chance of rain. Well, it rained. And it rained the entire afternoon and evening, but it kind of set up for a really fun Poppy McPopface bite. Three of us got to indulge in, and kind of right on cue. I've never caught so many pumpkin seeds on a big popper in my life.
Sheesh.
Man, I'm putting that on a t-shirt. Jeez, that's a big bluegill. You guys got some pretty amazing pan fisheries from what I've seen, and you guys, I mean, we aren't even targeting them. Like I could lose myself in this entire Northeast just pan fishing. But
it's nuts.
He was
yeah,
lost.
we found that topwater bite I was hoping for to a degree, and then the rest of the weekend was pretty sunny and overcast. I'm sorry, sunny and bluebird. So we had to catch them other ways. Like we had to go to a Explorer gill and catch them on a glide bait, unfortunately. But
Oh, life's rough.
Shucks.
the beautiful thing about bass fishing, man, there's always a pivot. That's one thing that
Absolutely.
these tournaments teach us all, right? Like, man, you go out there and have the worst day of your life, but somebody else sacked them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's always like that.
It's all about the adjustments. That was the hardest thing that I struggled with the first year. Like I thought I knew shit, and then I fished a tournament trail back in 2011, the year before my first kid was born, and I realized I didn't know shit. Especially I didn't know how to adjust. that was a very humbling year that year. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, that's what I like about it though. That's the thing that drives me. It's that ever changing chess match. It's chess on steroids, and they change the rules every day.
Every hour.
Every hour. Yeah, especially when you're chasing smallies. God damn. You can change it multiple times an hour.
Yeah, the hair gone.
Ooh, they like green pumpkin. Just kidding. They like smoke gray. Oh, they like green pumpkin again. Nope, watermelon. It's just
Yeah,
slightly different.
We got the hot tip. What was that color? Like everybody is throwing up there, like fluorescent orange.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
That guy on
One
the
of
dock.
first water I've seen in my life, and the guys are throwing fluorescent orange baits. We're looking over and they're unhooking fish. I mean, they were trolling them, they were casting them from shore.
This guy had a tattoo of the lake on his leg, and he legitimately was like trying to tell us where to go, and he's like holding his leg up in the air, and he's like,
But he was like pulling his
Left
shorts
here,
up. We're like, it
right
was almost
here,
awkward.
and then in here, and he's like pointing at his leg and stuff, and we're like, okay, like, all right, thank you.
Yeah, if there's one local you're going to listen to, that's probably the guy.
Yeah, right.
That was after he told us he had like 972 packs of some
Marlboros?
no, some some Sungill drop shot bait, and he was like, "Yeah, I bought everyone from Mississippi to Maine," and we were just like, "What?" And
Why?
I honestly believed him too. Like I really did. Believe him, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think he was fluffing.
No, he was serious.
Oh, that's awesome. So, all right, that's the weekend fishing report in a nutshell for everybody. So, hopefully, you can glean some information for that as you go out this weekend, and hopefully, you guys stick them. It looks like it's going to be good weather, at least for us up here in the Northeast. So, hopefully, everybody gets to take advantage of it, get out there. We're going to have to wait until Sunday, but it'll be our first trip to Lakes Region, New Hampshire. Go for some smallmouth. Go out with one of our subscribers. I owe a trip to for the last 2 years. Finally, going to make that happen. And it's one of my favorite places in the state. So we affectionately call it the New Hampshire Brownie Factory because to me, it's one of the best smallmouth fisheries in the state. And it still pales in comparison to anything we've fished so far in Vermont. But it's still a damn good lake.
Yeah.
For New Hampshire standards, it's pretty incredible.
It's a damn good lake for New Hampshire for sure.
Yeah. And I don't know, we'll see how it goes. I know I am looking forward to it because we got in our whole striking order and we got a bunch of additional topwater baits that we want to be able to throw anyway. We just basically expanded on the things that we already use and have confidence in, but we just got a variety of sizes and colors to go with everything that we already throw, including that big ass bastard. It looks like a striper bait.
I'm throwing this for smallies.
That's cute. I fished a bunch of the Strike King topwater baits with this one guy named, I think his name is Kevin, on Table Rock one time.
Yep.
He fishes MLF, I think. Kevin Van Dam, that was his name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cheeky
I think I've
bastard.
heard of him.
And yeah, we had probably the best day I've ever had on Table Rock because every time I've been there, it's been a challenging lake. But it was like full on shad spawn, post spawn. It was May down there. So it should be kind of similar to what we're experiencing here in the Northeast over the next few weeks. So I feel like there's some application there, but we were crushing big largemouth with smallmouth and spots mixed in. He was throwing like, what was it? It was one of those single joint Strike King wake baits. And he was just waking it pretty fast under the surface. I think he said that one was discontinued, but there was like a similar one. It might have been like a Kong or something.
Well, they had the baby kingfish and the kingfish for a while. Those were pretty deadly, and I know they're still pretty sought after. Like they're expensive to buy on eBay and stuff.
And I was catching fish on a stick bait. I think it was a sexy dog. Is that right?
That's a walking bait.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what the smaller one is, and then the bigger one is the mega dog. So that's the sexy dog.
Should we go downstairs and grab the real
Get
mega
the
dog?
real mega dog.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Wait, they make it bigger?
Not Strike King.
Not
Oh.
straight.
I want to see it.
That one should be
Go
like
get
a
it.
strike dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strike dog, little baby dog, little puppy.
When was that, Oliver? I'm curious because I'm pretty sure KVD had a phenomenal tournament. I think it was Table Rock. The last year he fished the elites before he went full time on MLF. I remember he either won that tournament or finished in the top 5, and he was working the top water like a madman. And I remember stuck at like a 7, and then hooked himself on that top water bait at the same time. He's just like, oh yeah, no. All right,
I
back
want
to
to say
it.
that was Toledo Ben that you're thinking of, and he was catching him on a deep diving crank when he stuck himself and had the cameraman like
I remember that.
unhooking like a G and just kept going. I don't remember what year that was, but I fished
Yeah.
with him in 2018.
18 was the last year that before the switch over.
Okay, I knew it wasn't that long ago, but couldn't remember the exact year.
Yeah.
Sick. All right,
Joe,
let's jump into it.
Joe, do you have any baits on your table, like topwater baits?
No, I cleaned actually. Like, oh yeah, the only ones I got are BBD giveaway stuff. I think there's a couple. There's like the Sunset Teaser Pop Max is in there.
I was just gonna ask you. I said on the count of 3, we should all hold up our favorite first topwater we pick up in the spring.
Oh, I mean, like,
Dude,
I-
you read my mind. That's what I was going to say. I wanted to start
Really?
with. Yeah. No, that's not my favorite. Get out of here.
I'm happy to
It's
talk
close
about
second.
my favorites.
I'll show you guys a picture of mine.
Pop Max.
Got that one.
What else is in here?
I like this
Mike,
one.
do you have yours handy? Which one is that? I know it's a popper, but what the
That's
hell?
a
I can't.
Rico.
No, it's not. I know it is.
It's a popper. That's all you need to know. Joe, yours was a popper. Mike, yours was a popper.
No, mine's not a popper.
Okay.
Yeah, no way. No, mine's probably like I have it's discontinued, and then Teckle came out with the Kick Knocker to that's the copycat of it. It was the old Reactions Innovations Vixen, and Sixth Sense made a Vixen too. Those old ones were so much better than that new Teckle Kick Knocker.
But why?
I don't know. I just get bit more. I can't catch diddly squat on that Kick Knocker. I don't even throw it.
Could that be a part of why you don't catch them on it?
No, I mean, I'm not the only one. Like, it's pretty common knowledge those things suck for some reason. It's just like a knockoff. It just doesn't, it's not the same. I don't know. The old ones are a lot heavier, so maybe they just like sit on the water different. But yeah, I have the old Reactions, and the old Sixth Sense ones are getting beat up, but they catch them way better.
That was from David, the Mega Dog, Mega Bass Mega Dog.
Oh yeah,
that's what they were talking about.
It's the real meat right there. It's the meat and the 2 bits.
I like the 2 bits.
It's just a picture. It's not an actual website, jackass.
Aww.
He's like trying to click links and stuff.
Damn it.
You got a picture, Oliver, or are you still trying to look?
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Okay, I know what that one is.
You guys see that?
Yes.
Oh,
So
that but
no,
bigger.
that's not it.
What is that? Oh, that's the bigger one. That's the
That
one-
is a 6-inch long body bird crawler I've been helping develop for Defiant for like 6 years, and everything big eats it.
Is it done?
I want that. Yeah. What's the time frame on that, please?
Hopefully end of summer.
Yes. I've been trying to find a bigger crawler like that in the worst way, and the only ones I've found that are bigger. I mean, I got the I-wing, but it's big, but it's not big.
Now
it's not big enough. I want something
6
big.
inches long and wide, but the way it displaces and pushes water makes it seem even bigger. So it only attracts the attention
it's like
of
Michael Phelps doing
big
the butterfly.
That's right. Yep.
That's what I want. The only ones I've been able to find so far that like really match the size that I wanted are all like custom, bait makers up here in the Northeast, and they're pretty much impossible to get your hands on. Although I did get in the Pat's tournament while we were up on our Champlain trip, and Pat has started making his own version of a crawler, which you can imagine is probably gonna be pretty good, given his swim baits are amazing. And I missed out on a bait by 5 ounces. It bothers me. I had 3 4-pounders to weigh in, and I still missed out on a bait. Yeah, how she goes. Anyway, and there's another couple other guys, but they're impossible to get a hold of. So I am curious to see that once it launches, because I'm very, very happy to buy that from them. That I want a big freaking crawler like that.
Yeah, it's not all crawlers are created equal.
Dude.
I've only found success with a couple of them, and I've tried most of them.
I got a little baby pompadour.
Dude, I used to smoke them on the original Pompadour when that thing first came out. It's kind of what opened my eyes to that genre of topwater bait.
Yeah, my buddy put me onto that 2 years ago, and we went out on Lake Winnipesaukee. Yeah, that was 2 years ago now. Oh, damn. So I think he was actually fishing these last 3 years. Whatever, some time frame like that. And first fish of the day was like a 3-pound smallmouth, and it bent the shit out of one of the wings on it. And I was like, well, that sucks. I got one fish out of it. Now it swims like crap. Like it didn't want to walk and crawl the way it was supposed to. So that's why I went with the I-wing over the winter, hoping that one would be a little bit more sturdy. But again, still not as big as I want. What was your favorite topwater bait? What's your number one go-to?
I mean, probably a frog.
Pick it up. Which one? There you go. Oh, you don't really care which one though, do you? You don't
No,
have a
not
favorite?
Really. No.
Oh yeah, then you're not doing something right if you don't have a favorite.
I mean, I do have a favorite.
You
I don't even know what it's called. I forget the name of it. It
Mike's
beats his shit, and
Tourette's
it's
just kicked in a little when you said that. Like, I'm surprised you didn't curse on accident.
you can if you can curse some music.
You got
Oh,
it.
yeah, go for it.
I was in the Navy. I can take it.
Well,
You gotta
if
have a
you,
favorite frog.
I feel like
What?
you could probably relate to everybody that fished a frog, or people that fish. People could relate to you before the onset of Bobby Barrick and the revolution of topwater frog technology, which we'll be discussing tomorrow. Shameless plug.
Oh yeah, no nothing shameless about it. Take the moment to talk about it because I'm looking forward to watching that tomorrow night. I'm putting off video editing so I can actually watch that one tomorrow.
So you're going to see why like certain things matter, and really you can see how the current state of frog fishing and the technology behind all of it and the culture that's blossomed from it pretty much came from the West Coast, whoop whoop, and one man in particular, and that's Mr. Bobby Barrick, who was really instrumental in customizing these frogs and taking them out of the package and bringing them up to his specifications, and actually working with a brand like Snagproof to come up with a perfect frog is what they called it. So you didn't have to sit there and tinker with these things out of the package anymore. And since then, the improvements in frog design have been wild. So I think it matters. I agree with Mr. Zampese there. You can't just hand me any frog and I can't be 100% confident I can actually get it to do what I need it to do to get a bite, hook a fish on it when it does bite, and have it last for more than one bite.
Yep, I hear that. So when I first started fishing frog, well, actually, you know what? Hang on, back it up first. I didn't say my favorite bait, and I might be going a little against the grain here.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Buzzbait. And there's a number of like cheap and not so cheap buzz baits that I've used over the years. I really haven't found that much of a difference between the two. Sometimes I'll bend out the blades a little bit more depending on how much chop I want to get out of it. But just a simple buzz bait is one of my favorite topwater baits. This is one of the first topwater baits I ever learned how to fish. And I've caught a ton of big fish on that. Smallmouth and largemouth, more largemouth than smallies, but it's just really, really, really hard to beat how satisfying a topwater bite is for a buzzbait over most other baits.
Do you have any problems with casting your buzzbait?
Casting it?
Yeah. Do you get a lot
sometimes where the blades will catch? You can hear it like spool up and like halfway through the air and just dies. But I don't know, maybe only 10% of my cast does that happen.
You should try out this one when it comes out. It's Defiant buzzbait.
Dude, Defiant's just kind of killing it lately here, huh?
I've always wondered why someone didn't make a 3/4 ounce buzzbait.
It's got a little lip on it. It comes right up. Like you can just seriously, as soon as it hits the water, just lift your rod and it'll actually like plane right up.
Oh, now that's friggin' awesome. Oh, you'd be able to cast that a mile too. That what you just said, Oliver? That's 3/4 ounce?
Yeah, 3/4 ounce.
With
And
a
it's got a
hydrofoil.
screw lock. Like I don't normally throw a buzzbait with a skirt. I always throw it with a toad, but
What is?
Sorry.
You're good.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Mike
So
and I have-
And it
go ahead.
Mike and I have different perspectives on certain things, and buzzbaits is one of them because he said he never fishes a skirt. Dude, I love fishing a skirt on my buzzbaits.
I've done both, and I've done both with and without trailers. And I haven't fished them enough, and especially fished the variety of all those kind of configurations enough to really understand why one works better than the other configuration in certain conditions. I'm getting closer, but I can't speak confidently as to why I would fish one with a skirt and no trailer versus no skirt with a trailer, or a combination of the two.
I've heard
had
a
success on
couple
both.
schools of thought, and a lot of guys say like they go to the skirt in the fall when the forage kind of fills out a little more, and it gives it a better like profile for fish to see up above them. I don't know. I never got into throwing it with a skirt. Like I haven't thrown it with a skirt for like the last like dozen years since I learned enough to start using a trailer. I've just been tearing the skirts off.
also something cool about this buzzbait. Look at the size of the hook on it.
Yeah, it's not a small hook.
It's a 5/0. It has a very like unique bend to it. I think it's a. Am I allowed to say the name of the hook?
Yeah,
It's a Ryugi, right?
it's a Ryugi tantrum control flipping hook.
It's
It
it's
is a
seriously
beast.
it's seriously like super beast. Like I couldn't even bend this if I wanted to by my hands.
So one of my problems I was having with buzzbaits the last couple of years is hooking those bigger fish, especially smallies, and having them jump off on me.
Yep.
And we've been playing with a bunch of different hooks in those prototypes, and by far that has been my best performing hook. I haven't lost one on the jump yet. I don't think you have either, right, Mike?
I haven't lost one on the jump. I think I caught between 50 and 60 fish on this buzzbait, and I lost one, but it was coming over a log, and I don't think it got it right all the way. But I like on the jump, no, I haven't lost one yet.
Nice.
All those fish on the same trailer?
No, but I think I got like 20 fish out of the one trailer, and like when the screw lock eventually it pulled out because I caught so many and from casting it all the time, but I just bit off the top of it and I screwed it back on again, and it worked good as new for like another 15 fish.
That's my boy.
Yeah, the screw lock gets cheap.
You're like me, you're gonna love that.
Yeah, certain baits I like a screw lock, and this is one of them. My flipping jig, not so much, but this is something that every topwater buzzbait should have. Like, it just makes sense.
It does. How big is the screw lock on that?
Like it's like three screws. So
It's a meaty, but not so big that if you wanted to try and downsize your bait a little bit, maybe something a little bit longer but thinner, you can still get it on there.
Like a fat Albert grub, like something like that.
Yep. And then
you could screw that on, no doubt.
Okay, my buddy fishes, I know it's Z baits, but I can't remember what the name of the bait is. I think it's the mud skipper. It's a really weird looking bait. Like it's very simplistic, but it's basically just like a long, straight, almost like beaver tail on the tail end of it. And that's what he fishes primarily. I think there's actually a slight twist in it, right where it comes out of the meat of the body to the tail. But that's his primary go-to trailer for it. There's not a ton of meat up at the top, so that's what made me think to ask that question. But that it's in the thumbnail for the stream, and that's what his go-to buzzbait trailer is. And he's killed it. I mean, we won a tournament on the Connecticut River in southern New Hampshire in 2018. We had 5 for a little over 22 pounds, and he put 3 of the keepers in the boat all on that buzzbait with that exact trailer. I wouldn't be surprised if that picture was from that day. Now I think back on it, he was hammering them all day on that thing.
Here's a X zone deception worm. I mean, that's pretty much as thin as a bait. You're nothing you're going to put on the back, but I guarantee you, I can thread. I think the hook is actually thicker than the keeper.
And the bait.
I'm almost positive. Yeah,
It's made for big ones, man.
let's see what we can do here, boys.
A little higher so we can see it. And you got to show people, Mike, because I've had several guys ask me, like, dude, this twist lock sucks. My baits just tear. And I'm like, tell me you're not just shoving it up the twist lock.
So
There you go.
I just put this little finesse worm on there, and it's not coming through on either side.
Perfect. There you go.
So
you got to rotate the bait around the hook point.
Yeah, and then turn the bait. So put the tail around and then corkscrew the part on.
But once it's on there.
Yep, it's just like that. That's a good one, Mike.
It's like the Beast Coast Hustler jig, where he's got that screw lock on there now too, and getting baits on there is such a pain in the ass because it's a much smaller hook. It's trying to wrap around, a little 2.8-inch Kitech on that thing's a pain in the ass, but it works, so it's worth the effort.
It's worth it on the front side, I feel, because when you're in the middle of a hot bite, especially if you're short biting fish and stuff, it's gonna pay for itself in that time you put into actually mounting it on that jig head right the first time.
Yep. All right, so continuing the topic of buzzbaits, what are your favorite trailers? What are your top 3? I have a couple in mind on my end, but I'm just curious for you guys. Like, what are your go-tos for buzzbait trailers? And more, and then if you want to elaborate on why, please, by all means, feel free.
I mean, dude, I use one 90% of the time, and I use it in black and I use it in white. And it's the Strike King, their Magnum Menace Scrub. And I tear one of the 2 flappers off. So then I just have one fat flapper going. I'm not a huge fan of like Strike King products because they're super salty and fall apart in about 3 seconds. But
dude, they're sponsors, bro.
It's all good. We have enough to make it last for the year.
Dude, I never hate on what other people choose to use. It's just not for me. Like I go through baits like
I'm sorry,
mad.
guys. I'm sorry.
I'm not like Oliver though. But like Oliver will save a bait forever. And I throw things out that aren't pristine. Like I am OCD, picky, and weird. Like it's just me. So like I tend to like stay towards the much more durable stuff, the X-Zone, the Cast, that kind of stuff, not for any other reason other than like, dude, I don't like biting the heads off of worms. Like, I'll just throw the worm away. Like, I'm not that guy. Oliver's taking worms off his hook. He went fishing with me when we were in Virginia, and he's putting them back in the package, and I'm like, I just don't do that. Like, it's not like a lot of people like that softness and saving. Like, no way. Give me the hard stuff. Like, I want the durability. But that being said, yeah, that Strike King Magnum Menace Scrub is with one flapper is the way. It's the deal for me.
What about you, Oliver?
Man, lately it's been an X-Zone Swammer with the
really?
skirt.
All right.
Did you do upside down?
No, tail
Why
down.
Why you always gotta like put like a pun on me, like with the skirt? Like
Because it's been
like,
working.
always coming at me. Oh,
Look, man, I'm always
I think he
doing
like
my
threw
best.
his hand on his hip too.
yeah, like with the skirt.
But like Forrest Gump style, like the elbows forward. But seriously though, I like the skirt with a trailer because it obviously creates a bigger, bulkier profile, displacing more water. There's a secondary action between the skirt and the swim bait tail. But I don't really necessarily feel like most of my buzzbait bites are feeding bites. I just want something big, loud, and intrusive to piss a smallmouth or a largemouth off to eat it. I don't recall a time where I've ever had a situation where fish were busting bait, actively feeding, and I threw a buzzbait through it and it got crushed. It just didn't. It doesn't happen. I feel like they eat that thing straight out of frustration and annoyance. And I want something
They're down there
big
like,
and bulky.
shut up.
That's it, 1,000%. And the way they hit it, like those bites that Sean just described, was, I mean, that's what I'm trying to coax out of these fish is a big, angry, aggressive bite. So I'm not really trying to match the hatch with anything. I want a big, bulky presentation.
Yep. So expanding on that, do you ever play around with your trailers so that you can work on the retrieve, the cadence of your retrieve on your bait? Because I've had some days where I've just gotten short striked like a half dozen times. And I can tell they're keyed in on it. They want to hit it, but I'm just going still a little bit too fast. And I've played around with my trailers a little bit to try and help slow it down, where I can slow it down a little bit, but still keep it going. And that little bit of a hitch in the speed was all the difference in the world to go from constant short strikes, just like literally popping it out of the air because they're just busting it, but not hitting it, to hooking up every single time.
Yeah, I would say anything with a lot of drag. I mean, back in the day, I'd just fish like a Yamamoto 5-inch hula grub on my buzz baits and spinner baits because it created a lot more drag, a lot more action. It would allow me to slow down. But that's one of those things that we as a team collectively worked on with that buzz bait that Mike was holding up. Like, you don't have to do that anymore.
You don't. You really don't. I'll post some videos this week of what I got, but I mean, you just seriously, if you're going to keep talking, go ahead. I'll just finish up after
No,
you.
go ahead.
What I noticed is, because I'm a big buzzbait guy, I like Topwater. But a lot of buzzbaits, someone actually said it here, New England Bass Addict. He said, tuning, you always have to tune a buzzbait. Every buzzbait you have to tune, and you can never get them to go straight. And I feel like that lip right there, it has to be straight. The water's going to catch it, so it's going to hold it straight, number one. And number two, I just feel like Oliver was saying, I'm kind of basic too. I just use a Fat Albert from Zoom on my trailers. If I'm not using a horny toad, I guess I would use those two. But like it's a reaction thing. I don't think they're really looking like, oh, okay, this is a buzzbait. I'm in the mood for buzzbaits today. I think it's like, oh God, what's that? I'm gonna eat it or I'm gonna get eaten. So
I think Dave's right though. Like, I mean, I think that's why like I only use like one trailer, is because actually like I kind of shy away from it because I've never really had a huge user friendly buzzbait. Like like buzzbaits are kind of a pain in the butt, in my opinion. Like I was too busy learning how to tune spinner baits and crankbaits that I just never really got into the buzzbait side of it. Like I'll throw the crap out of like the toad runner, like just because like the toad runner always lays flat and the tail always spins and you get a similar effect. You know what I mean? Like you can't screw that one up. So
I hear that.
I know what Dave's saying.
I have noticed that there are certain actions, noises, squeaks, clacks, non-clacks that will either trigger or deter fish from eating a buzzbait. So I've really whittled down my buzzbait fishing to 4 different baits. And the first is probably a megabass Jamaica boa. And that bait has really cemented in my mind that just a skirted buzzbait can get bit very well. And I like that bait when I don't want to mess with the trailer. It's got like those 2 little silicone tails tied into the skirt, so it's almost got a built-in trailer. We've done some videos, even on my Instagram story. You'll see like an underwater shot of that thing coming through and at a high frame rate, and it's got a lot of great action with just the skirt. But that's a great bait when you want the option of either running it silent by just bending that top arm up a little bit, because it's got like this little clevis or little like knocker on the shaft of the lower wire.
Yep.
And then if you want the clack, you can bend it down and create contact. So that's a great versatile buzzbait for that reason. Then the other ones I've been fishing are the Nichols Impulse, which I've been throwing when they don't want any extra noise and they're maybe a little bit spookier. And then when I do want that loud clack, the Nichols Reflex. It's got like a much shorter bottom arm, but it's also got like a fat head that the actual blade makes contact with and creates a really obnoxious clack, 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 clack on every revolution. And I'll usually have both styles of buzzbaits on the deck, and I'll kind of intermittently like cast 5-10 times with each one. And they will usually show you a preference for one or the other.
Which one's the slowest? Which one do you move the slowest?
That Defiant.
Yeah.
The Defiant I could fish fast or as slow as I need to, but having you can adjust that presentation by putting
Different
whatever trailer you want on it. Everything's going to make it behave a little bit different.
I just didn't know if you were going to say the boa because it's got a like huge blade.
Yeah, I mean, I like that big blade, and I used to really love a double arm buzzbait, but I really haven't come across any that I currently like.
That was going to be my question, because I have never fished the double. I never felt like I had a need for it, but we had our Strike King order. You know, we were able to place it with the new sponsorship, so we were looking at stuff, and we were like, well, you know what? Let's try a couple of the double buzz baits, because I'm just curious. I've never thrown one. But then again, you know, for the few friends that I have that fish a lot of buzz baits, like I don't know anybody else that throws the double arms either. Everybody's just always a single arm.
That's probably why you should throw one.
That's a very good point. And actually,
yeah, but my problem is I haven't found one that I currently like that's like available. So hopefully that changes.
I got you.
The old Terminator doubles were good.
So on your point about clacking, different noises and everything, I actually had a text from my buddy Chad where he said he likes to bend the wires to get the blade to knock on the wire, if that makes sense. Which, yes, it absolutely does, and helps make it as noisy as possible. When I first started learning to do a buzzbait, I was told to do the same thing. Sometimes having your blade just knock against the wire that leads down to the head and the hook absolutely makes a difference. Although I'm also curious, you guys ever toy around with bending out the lip on the blade a little bit? So where that's got, you know, a decent little, I'm not sure how well that can, that's got like a decent little cup to it. I've had some days where I've bent that, like I've really exaggerated the roll on it, so it gets like a deeper, throatier, like kind of just a little like
gurgle.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, like a deeper gurgle. Shut up. Yeah, deeper gurgle, and like, but then I feel like I can slow it down because it's kind of like cupping more water. So it's just a different pitch. And then also vice versa, where there's other days I've rolled it out so it's almost flat. There's just like a little lip, and I can really burn it. It's more of like a high-pitched kind of gurgle as it's ripping across. How much have you played around with that? And If so, how much do you think that has made a difference for you? Or do you just go to a different style buzzbait altogether versus messing with the blade?
Yeah, no, I ain't touching the cupping and gurgling. No, that's something.
Mike,
I have never done that. But to answer your question, there is other buzz baits that I would change my bait to make that noise difference if I'm trying to look for something different. Because anything metal, you bend enough times, it's going to break. So
especially
I don't want to be breaking all my buzz baits because I just want to make a certain noise. I'll just find the buzz bait that makes the noise I'm looking for without having to bend the metal back and forth. That's just my opinion. I mean,
I concur.
Easier that way for me.
I don't even like throwing away my used plastics.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to be going through all my buzz baits.
If my jig trailer rips, I'll just take it off, turn it around, put it back on.
Yeah.
What is wrong with these people?
They're just like.
It's funny because like I'm almost on the same lines as Joe.
Keep my pinky up when I do it too.
Look, man, I think people.
My jig has a slight tear in it.
Yeah.
You know how many of your trailers I picked up
I
and
was
used off the
literally about
deck?
to say because like I'm not as bad as Joe. I'm nowhere near as bad as Joe. But like if it's like even remotely problematic to make it like a trailer stick to my jig, I'm like, nah, fuck that. And I throw it back in the deck.
Hey, Mike.
And Andrew will come up and he'll look around and be like,
give me that.
He's just picking out of the pile on the floor. I'm like, it's all garbage. He's like, no, I got this.
That's right.
6-pounder.
Mike, what was the key to getting bit on the football jig this weekend? One tail snail, right?
I'm telling you, like me and my buddy have this thing. The kid that I fish with, when you first rig up your jig in the morning, whatever kind of creature bait crawl, whatever, it has usually 2 claws or 2 tails or something. If you're fishing it that way, in the morning it always has to be 2. Always. That's just the way it goes. But if you make your first cast and one bites off the tail, you have to fish that one tail until you either lose the whole bait or the other tail's gone. Like I'm a firm believer in.
There's crayfish down there with 1 claw.
Yeah.
I can honestly say that I have just as much confidence throwing the 1-tail snail, is what we call it, than throwing 2 claws. Ask Oliver. I caught him on the boat the whole time. He was like, "All right, throwing that 1 claw." I said, yeah, it's 1-tail snail. And he was all
I don't
about
sound
it.
like that, by the way, but yeah,
Hey, what?
it's a real
Trademark
thing.
that name real quick.
I mean, I was telling him back in the day. Once again, I was fishing Yamamoto single tail, grub a lot of times on the back of my skirted jigs and hula, soft skirted or rubber jigs, and they bit it all the time.
I like it.
Yeah,
Happens.
1-tail
What was it?
snail.
Oh, one thing I meant to say about the Defiant buzzbait you have there. Remind me again because I forgot if I asked. What's the time frame on that being released? And 2, if it's after August 1st, any chance you could send us 2 that we could take striper fishing in July? Because I
Have
would
you
like to
actually
try
had
it.
good success throwing buzzbaits at stripers?
No, but I kind of want to try it for shits and giggles.
Because
We pulled up on a school. Literally, this last Saturday was the first time I'd ever been striper fishing.
Give me that freaking.
Except for the there's a spot we go to not too far from here for the winter holdovers. It's not the same. Now that I've actually been proper striper fishing, it is not the same. I never doubted it. I didn't have that frame of reference. Holy shit, what a difference in the fights. But we got into one school and like we're all just kind of working in the river and all of a sudden they just started going off and I shit you not, there was like 20 boats. They're all just like converge and everyone in and only like 2 people caught a fish out of it. And I was just thinking when you were showing me that bait and how big it was, I was like, damn, I wonder if a buzzbait would work through that.
I'll share with you my experiences because we got a lot of stripers in our lakes back at home. And they'll mix in with the largemouth when they're chasing shad, especially on our reservoirs, like starting this time of year throughout the summer. And the buzzbait's probably the one thing that I would count on not catching a striper on.
Really?
So they just
Maybe it's just a
happen.
profile.
They don't
It's
even
not
need
big
spinnerbaits
enough.
for us. They don't seem to like the wires,
Interesting.
in my opinion. I know it's happened. I've known guys that have caught a striper on a buzzbait or a spinnerbait, but you're better off throwing a single bait like a soft fluke or a jerk bait or any walking topwater.
Yeah, that's what we caught all of our fish on was 7 and 9 inch sluggos on just like 3/4 ounce and 1 ounce jig heads. And then Dennis caught one on that 7 inch topwater.
No, he had like a 6-inch, and I was throwing the 8-inch.
Oh, okay.
Dude, do yourself a favor. Just go buy yourself a Mega Bass Mega Dog and hang on.
Oh, you mean this?
No,
Something like
the real
Oh,
one.
wait, no. This is the Mega Dog.
No, the
No,
real one.
That's the strike in. You need the real one.
Oh,
Like,
sorry, you
I'm
said
sorry.
Mega Bass. Sorry. My brain.
Yeah. I mean, Riley and I, this time last year, absolutely wrecked the stripers on that thing in the Manhattan Cup. And
Yep.
it blew away everything. Like literally the entire tournament, which was just doing what you were describing and getting closer and closer to us. I felt like we were in a covered wagon with natives shooting arrows at us because we were double and triple hooking up the entire tournament, and nobody else could get bit on live bunka, on live eels, and whatever the local topwater plugs that they make in the region. Like that bait, if you fish it like fast, frantic, and crazy, like go on the Big Bass Streams YouTube channel. No shame there, and look up like some of those videos of those stripers, like, and watch how we're working that thing. Like it was straight reaction bites. They weren't eating it because they were hungry. We were like playing cat
You're
and
just
mouse.
calling them up.
I was burning that freaking thing.
Yeah.
And Riley edited a dope video. You should go to Riley's channel and check that one
Yep.
out. That
I mean,
one's a good one.
she absolutely crushed them on that bait. And if you want to catch them, I'd fish that bait.
I'm gonna search it right now.
And
That way I
it's
can
fun
have it
watching
after.
like that tiny little person with that big rod, freaking beast in him. Like she's great. You got to go watch her.
And another bait that's really popped up as far as being super efficient is the Nichols Magnum Flutter Spoon. All of those guys had a spoon tied on, which is kind of new.
Hmm.
The 8-inch, the 9-inch, like fired out
Jesus.
there and just let it like fall through all of that and rip up, boom.
That's what our
Bite.
guide was throwing, was an 8 or 9 inch spoon. It was a
8 or
big
9
spoon.
inch, yeah.
And
He got stewed.
dude, he got smoked at one point. I saw it on my peripheral. He just, it's just his whole rod just boom, and he's like, Jesus Christ!
The butt came up and hit him, and knocked his hat off his head and everything. He's like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
He was a good dude. I'm looking forward to going back out with him this spring or the summer.
Yeah. So am
I wonder if they'd eat like those. I should have asked Oliver this. What I don't know why I never thought of it till right now. Those like big, like 60-gram, like cast OGs and like what's the other one? Well, they make two really cool looking top waters that are totally different, but they're real erratic. Like they'll sub out and come up and like pop back up to the surface and shit. Oh, they're wild. Like, they use them for GTs and stuff in Australia.
Yeah, I used to fish like 8 or 9 inch like big plugs
Down under.
for
That's
them,
what
and
it is, the down.
I've got hit pretty. I've never actually landed one on a topwater, but I've got hit pretty hard with them. They just hit it and throw it like 20 feet.
They make them up to like 150 grams, which is what,
Jesus.
I mean, 10 ounces is 280, so it's 5 ounces. Like they're 5-ounce top waters.
It's still a heavy ass topwater.
Wild.
Yeah, it is.
For a floating bait,
Right.
like hand carved floating bait. Like, yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this dude Cavi. He's on his YouTube fishing, Cavi fishing. He's some Australian dude. That's what he does. He throws all those big heavy top waters for like GTs and stuff like that down there. It's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
like GT Buster, like all that Michael Wood footage, like blurring the lines. That is wild, dude. Like that's why I mean, I'm a single guy. I kick back and watch that stuff at night all the time. Like,
I'm not. I watch it every night.
yeah, right. You get a good wife.
I'm
Found
not
a
married.
keeper.
She
Not
doesn't
yet.
live with me.
All right, last question on buzzbait, and I want to get to a couple other baits here because there's quite a few that I know that we should all be able to expand upon. But another question from my buddy Chad. His exact words: what about the controversial plastic versus metal blades on a buzzbait? I can speak for myself that I've only tried a few plastic bladed buzzbaits in my years ago. Did not like them at all. It was, I don't know. I feel like they just didn't. At least the two different versions I used, and don't even ask me what brand they were because I cannot remember. But I just feel like they didn't make enough noise. They didn't throw enough water, and therefore I never got bit on them. I didn't have the confidence in it. So hard no on plastic blades for me.
I'll let you
Agreed.
guys go first.
Hard no for me. I've tried, like you said, I've tried two, and one of them had like I think it had a split ring to the head, and the hooks were free. and that to me on a top water is an extreme no because the bait's moving and the fish already are just reacting, so they're not really getting a clear picture of what they're eating. And I feel like my hookups were absolutely horrendous when I did hook up, and no, plastic blades, no for me.
There you go.
Was that hold on, quick question? Was that a catfish buzzbait by any chance, Mike? That's a serious question, by the way.
It might have been. I got it at a tackle shop that's no longer in business, and it was in like this bargain bin, and I said, "Oh, this thing looks awesome," and I just bought it. And,
No, we
there
don't.
are
It was in the bargain
catfish in
bin.
Japan that eat topwater, so they actually design baits like frogs and buzz baits specifically for catfish. But there was one that I was messing with that was similar to that, and I didn't like that either.
yeah, it just didn't make sense to me. But I mean, now that you say that it's for, and I might have been throwing a one meant for catfish, their mouth is a lot bigger than a bass's mouth. So maybe I would have got more hookups if I was for catfish.
I don't know. Like my dad fished Clarks Hill in Georgia for like 6 years of college, and he used to squeak up our buzz baits. If I see a plastic one in the store, or online, like I instantly like I can't be open-minded. To me, those just aren't what it's supposed to be. Maybe somebody will figure out a way to make one really squeaky, even though it's plastic, but I don't know. Like that was one of the things my dad fished a lot when I was growing up, and he used to leave them on the antenna of his truck. And like, I don't know. I don't know how to use a non-traditional buzzbait.
Yeah, I wouldn't throw anything plastic.
No.
I'm gonna contribute to this conversation by giving you a hard maybe, because I
There you
have
go.
waxed on a plastic buzzbait.
Hard maybe. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say, I'm going to give you a hard maybe.
Yeah, man, I just don't believe in absolutes in fishing.
hard,
I've just
It's
been doing
like
it way too long.
complete conviction followed by complete uncertainty. Hard,
That's
maybe.
Have you not seen the deck of my boat? It is always uncertainty.
Oh, it's complete uncertainty at all
But
times.
you know what? That open-mindedness has allowed me to pull a lot of fish in and out of that live well over the years.
I own.
Just
well,
drop
now,
the trolling motor, look around.
I
Let's use this.
think I got 16 combos now, which I know isn't a ton, but it's enough, and it fills the front deck pretty well. And I take out all 16 almost every time I go, because I've got like my 5 go-tos that like I have extreme confidence in these, but I'm ready to pivot well outside both of the extremes here of what I think it's going to take in order to put fish in the boat. There's plenty of days where I use all 16 rods, but I put fish in the boat, so works for me.
Yeah, I've had situations where I've absolutely smashed them on a plastic buzzbait, and it's because I feel it is so much more subtle than any of the metal versions. And if you're fishing a body of water that's been hammered, especially after word that the buzzbait bite is on fire, I feel like that's one of those scenarios where you can come up behind somebody and catch fish on a buzzbait that wouldn't eat a squeaky or a clacking or just a normal metal bladed buzzbait.
Yep. I mean, it does make sense. You look at the jackhammer and then the stealth blade. Stealth blade catches them, and there's a significant difference in the overall noise of those baits, but what they do during the retrieve is still very, very similar, if not identical. But the one video I saw, they weren't quite like 1-to-1 on retrieve on them, but the noise difference was staggering.
For sure. And I don't really want my buzzbait to be squeaky, clacky, and quiet all at the same time. Like, that's not really a thing. So like Mike said, he's going to choose a buzzbait that does one of those things really well and tie that on and try that and see if that's the ticket to getting those fish to bite in that scenario. So they're all different, man.
Agreed.
Sorry, I'm just responding to a comment because I want to I want to circle back.
Joe.
Z-Fish had a really good comment about setup for topwater baits, which is kind of loaded, but I think we can save that for last because I want to go through a couple more different baits. But last question on buzz baits, because I'm glad that we started this, because between like frog and buzzbait to me are probably the two most like universal like topwater presentations that most people want to use anyway. You can find them friggin' literally anywhere. They're so common. So I'm happy that we're really doing a deep dive into this. But Grat had a really good question. Do you change buzzbait sounds with bottom composition? Which I find to be an interesting question, but a good one.
I have never put those two together.
Me either.
Completely honest with you.
It's like the best question I've ever heard. We podcast every week. That's like my favorite question we've ever got.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I still don't think I'd change anything.
I don't think I would either. This is one of those things I never would have thought about. But
I
now,
buzzbait over a lot of different bottom compositions, and I haven't rolled up to like a rock wall or a rock flat and been like, "Oh man, I want a squeaky one here."
But I've never really like thought about how like that surrounding environment changes the sound and changes the way they feel it on their lateral line. I'm like right now.
Well,
this is crazy.
well, yeah, because now I'm thinking about like, I mean, New England, you know, the Northeast is. We have just
Mud.
a massively different variety of bodies of water, and you can still hammer really good fish in 3 feet of water or less, where it's just nothing but sand and granite, and then also 3 feet of water or less, where it's barely any visible water on the surface because there's just so much damn milfoil. So now I'm beginning to think like, maybe that could make a difference someday.
At the same time, too, like we try to personify fish like so much. Like we assume we know what they're hearing and feeling and thinking, and I don't know. Sometimes you just got to find them.
Yeah,
that's kind
Sure,
of.
if something enters the water, they know it's there.
Yeah,
It's a fascinating question, but I don't think
Yeah.
one that any of us have an answer to.
yeah.
No. All right, we're done with buzzbaits. Let's go to frogs, because that's probably going to be the most. Well, out of all the other topwater baits, it's probably the one we can talk about the most. Only closely followed by just like topwater, like walking baits. So, with that in mind, what's your favorite frog that you guys like to fish?
We only get to pick one.
No, pick your top 3, because I know when it comes to frogs, there is a whole myriad number of options between different walking styles and then popping ones, and then like my favorite right now is the Jackal Gavacho, which I really like because I can pop it and it walks really nicely. It's like, to me, it's kind of a good hybrid.
Oh, that was the one I threw.
Is that me? Did you really throw it across? He did. He literally
Like
threw
a
it across the room.
multicultural frog, Japanese with a Mexican name.
A cultural frog.
I have some friends at home that are, you know, Hispanic and Japanese.
Jeez.
I feel like,
Ribbit. Ribbit.
never mind.
Si, senor.
Maybe it was inspired on a Jackal
That reminds
trip
me.
to El Salto or
Yeah,
something.
right.
Should we tell him about the ice story when we went to Champlain?
Oh man,
Because it'll take.
I kind of felt bad.
I did too, but sorry, you said that. It reminded us. We watched some Mexican gentleman get arrested by ICE in Vermont when we were like just outside of Burlington. And it was weird because we pulled up to the gas station. I'm like on fumes, and there's like these 2 guys dressed really weird. One dude's sitting in the pump, like just kind of doing this look at the store. I'm like, the fuck is that guy doing? And the other guy's sitting there like a squeegee, literally washing like his car with the squeegee. He's washing the hood and the headlights. He's like
Just
looking around,
staring
like-
off, or like, is this guy tripping or something? Like, what is wrong with this dude?
They were high as shit. So finally a pump opens. I go all around, park, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go in and get water and stuff. You start pumping. I come back out, and all of a sudden there's a dude in handcuffs, and the 2 cops are putting him in the car. And Andrew's like, that was ICE. They were just like
Yeah,
showing the parking lot
immigration
forever. We're like,
customs.
yeah. And we're
Yeah.
like, oh. It was really weird. I apparently the guy that they arrested held the door open for me. He was a very nice gentleman. So I went in and come back out, and poor dude's in handcuffs. Anyway,
Not
sorry.
expecting that.
No, it was just a very strange, but it just strange conversation or strange interaction to see that out in like middle of nowhere, Vermont. Anyway, frog, what's your favorites?
Mike, go. Mike,
I
you're
have
the-
one. I have one favorite. I throw a Spro popping frog. That's my favorite frog.
What size? 60? 70?
65. I like the smaller one too, but I can't seem. I think I got like, I'm not even exaggerating. I had this frog on Oneida last year, and it was like in between a 65 and a 55, and the 60 that they make is bigger, but there's nothing in between. But I have the frog, and it's none of the sizes that of the Spro frogs that they make. I think they like goofed or something. I know this is crazy, but I think they goofed, and I think I just got one in a box. But I'll send you a picture because I have all of them. But it's kind of crazy. I want that one, and I can't find another one. Kind of.
I want that one. Just knowing that you have like one of like something someone else can't get.
I'll send you a picture of it. I legitimately took a needle and I had to sew the bottom because the glue was making it too heavy. It was starting to sink. So I got some like 10-pound braid and I just like sewed a little thing around it. I'll show you this.
Brielle wouldn't sew it for you. She wouldn't like suture it. No,
I sutured it. Yeah, I sutured it right back together.
A man after your own heart.
Yeah.
That's
I would have been
Make
like,
shit happen. You
nope.
gotta make it work. Something doesn't work, you gotta make it work.
It's my favorite frog.
This one,
Sean, I'm interested to hear what yours are because I know you like to fish a frog a lot.
So again, the Jackal Gavacho. I don't know how to pronounce it,
Gavacho,
but
yeah.
Gavacho. Because again, I like it because I can walk it and pop it, and depending on what they're doing, it's a one size fits all frog for me. So it works really well. Secondary to that, I don't have another one that's really that a favorite. I'm kind of a simpleton when it comes to my frogs. I really haven't fished a ton of variety. My buddy DJ hooked me up with this one, and for the life of me, I have no idea who makes it.
I have
But-
like 3 or 4 of those, and I love that frog.
This has got a really, really good walk to it, and I really wish.
I gotta see the eyes though. It's the eyes that give it away.
For the life of me, I cannot remember what brand
That
this
looks like
is.
a live target frog to me.
That's what I would
What are you
guess.
eating?
Yeah, that looks like a live
The
target.
one I
frog to
have
me.
wasn't a live target, but it looked pretty similar to that.
So
A
I don't
little
know.
different.
It's a little bit bulkier body. Like if you look at this compared to the Strike King, like it's definitely a bulkier body.
Oh, dude,
All
it's got to be
around.
a river to see if it's that big.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's the walk on this is just different enough. I like it. I have a lot of confidence in it. So that's my number 2.
It's
After
got to
that,
be an ish fat frog. That's what it's got to be.
you know what? I'm gonna start looking up while you guys answer yours, what your favorites are. But real quick, Chad, thank you very much for the donation with the special note. Andrew is very hot tonight. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate you.
You know what? I'm just gonna send a picture to DJ and be like, "What the hell frog is this?" Because I need to know.
What kind of frogs do you like, Oliver?
Yeah.
I'm gonna age myself because I've caught fish on several generations of frogs. But the first good frog that I felt confident with was that snag-proof Bobby's Perfect Frog, and this is like in the early 2000s. And then I got onto the Spro kick for a while. I discovered the power of a popping frog with their version of it early. And then the Megabass stuff came into play. The original Gabbit frog was like the size of like a 60 or 65, so it was small. But it had that catamaran mouth, so I could pop it, I could make it spit, I could walk it really good. Then they discontinued that because that generation of frog like tore really bad. So like it got bit incredibly, but like you get like 1 to like 5 fish on a bait. I caught like 50 fish per like Bobby's, Perfect Frog, but that thing was super stiff plastic, and I'd miss a lot more fish with those earlier frogs. And then the Big Gabbit came out, and I caught them really good on that thing because I felt like it was a little bit bigger than most of the standard frogs on the market. And once again, I'm trying to target a bigger fish, and a big bait is always going to draw that kind of attention. So yeah, those are my mainstays. Recently, I've been fishing the Trash Pandas from 13, and that's been a really good frog for me. I got bit on it a few times this past weekend when I was still at home a couple weeks ago. I caught them really good on the popping version of that Trash Panda, and I feel like those popping frogs are more appealing to those bigger fish, especially when I'm fishing it in sparse to somewhat heavy cover. As you guys probably know, that if try to throw a popping frog in like thick vegetation, that open mouth catches a lot of that vegetation, whether pads or emergent sticks or whatever. So it can get frustrating trying to work that bait. But what I figured out is if I can work that bait with some finesse and get it into like that next open pocket of water to next to whatever I'm stuck on, like all that commotion of me moving a bush or a reed or a tule, and it hits the water, boom, that would generate a lot of big bites for me. So I've come to embrace the pain in the ass that is fishing a popping frog in heavier cover where most guys are probably throwing a standard pointy nose frog. If that makes any sense.
No, it absolutely does. I follow.
And I probably don't have any frog colored frogs in my boat either.
Any frog color?
Not
like
Like
Frog
natural
color.
color.
I'm not
Black,
trying.
brown,
I'm
white.
not trying to mimic a frog.
I think the belly is the only thing that matters. It's either white belly or black belly. I mean, in my opinion, that's usually what I do.
I've had a
White,
lot of
black,
success on
and green.
Okay.
For
I
some
got-
reason, like
Yeah.
we just saw that 2 weeks ago where I was throwing white and it was working fine, and then my buddy John was throwing black and he was getting bites here and there just to kind of they were on frogs. We were just trying to like narrow down like, hey, what do they really want? And then Andrew picked up this nuclear green one, and granted, your hookup ratio unfortunately wasn't that good because it was kind of a shitty frog, but
Yeah, it was.
you got like at least 2 times more bites than the two of us did.
Yeah.
Like, you were getting bit left, right, and center, and it was like almost like a chartreuse green. It's like that neon green.
Wait, it was actually.
Do you have it right there? No, I think it's in my day box in the boat still. No, it's not that one.
Nope.
No. Anyway,
I will-
sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll say all my patterns outside of white and black are going to be sunfish patterns because you'll see a lot of small sunfish in a lot of places you like throwing a frog or bird pattern because I see a hell of a lot more birds in and around the places I'm throwing a frog than I do actual frogs.
Yeah, I agree. Like that yellow sunfish, that's like the color of those yellow legal pads.
That's a cool color.
Yeah, that's a good one. I
I can't remember what brand that is, but yeah,
that's Reactions
it's got-
Innovations. That's a
Yes.
Reactions frog.
Is that a swamp donkey?
Thank you. Yes, I believe so. I'm gonna double check it, but I'm pretty sure that is the swamp donkey. And
super soft too.
okay, so that other frog, sorry, that bigger, bulkier one, live target is what our buddy David is saying.
Way to go, Mike.
And Oliver.
Come through.
Do you trim your frog tails?
I do. I always do. Depending.
This is another point of
It is the swamp donkey.
Sometimes.
personal preference
Yeah.
clashing that Mike and I have. Every
So-
time he says something like, "Oh, I never fish a frog without trimming the tails," it's like, "Well, I never fish a frog with a trim tail."
I do once in a while. Depending on if I don't know if either if I'm getting short struck or they're just completely missing it because they're coming up behind it, I'll cut it. I'll almost take the tails right off of it. If it's
Oh
out of a
no,
bite.
that's not why I trim them.
Me either. I
Or
was
the
gonna say I
walk.
go totally the walk. For me, that's depending because again, I'm a simpleton for the vast majority of the frogs I have. So depending upon what I'm throwing, that's the only time I've ever trimmed the skirts where I want to help it walk a lot better. Otherwise, I
Yeah,
just
and
leave
the
them as
smaller the frog, the shorter to me. I usually trim one of them. So like my go-to if I'm like need a snag-proof frog is like the Jackal Cara frog, right? But it's really tiny. So to me, to get it to not like do this bloop bloop bloop, to get it to like actually cut, I really need to shorten one of them to get it to actually turn, or else it just wants to bloop 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 right
this.
to me, and I don't always want it to do that.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
just, like,
Mike's got it perfect.
straight up and down,
Yeah.
just bobbing.
Yeah, yeah. They don't do that.
one
It just the nose just rocks down. It doesn't go side to side. Like turn
Yeah,
you
and when
bastard.
you get into those finessey frogs, that's really what they want to do. Like, but Oliver's not trying to like. It's a different way of thinking. Like I'm trying to present a different forage than Oliver's trying to present. Like he said like the majority of his time, he's putting a big presence out there, trying to make a commotion. Like when I'm doing it, I'm trying to like mimic something tiny that's like almost like not trying to make a commotion, but it's like that's almost trying to be like sneaky about it on the surface.
Like a bug on the surface.
Yeah, like a bug or an actual like little frog or a tadpole or like something that's just like up there and it's just kind of like getting around without making a commotion. Like if I'm trying to make a commotion, and which I do often, I just throw a toad. Like I'm throwing a top toad or the toad runner from Booyah or something like that, you know, like Teckle makes a couple different ones, like the Sprinker and what's the one with the metal legs. I really like that one.
I know which one you're talking about. I need to circle back. Teckle Sprinker is absolutely my top 3. I don't know why I didn't think about that before, but probably because I don't have one on the table to remind me. But yeah, Teckle Sprinker.
Oh, it's not the Sprinker. The Honker has the metal ones. That's the one I like.
Yeah.
Because the two like metal legs on the Honker actually hit into each other, and you can hear them going ding 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 ding, and it's never in a pattern, which I really like too. When those two legs hit up against each other, it's always just an erratic thing that never has like a standard beat to it. Like there's no rhythm to it.
That's a live target.
What the hell is that?
I don't know. I saw it at the store and I bought it. Oh, I got a Booyah knockoff of the Teckle Sprinker, but yeah, that
Yeah,
paddle tail on the
no,
back.
that's the Toad Runner. That's the thing, dude. See, I like the Toad Runner better than the Sprinker because it has that metal pin in it.
Yeah.
And you can shape that tail. Whereas the Sprinker is just this like
Fair point.
Like limp, ugly, like bleh piece of plastic.
Oh, this isn't oh, that one does have it too. Oh yeah, no shit. Okay, you know what? I never noticed that. I bought them and I haven't even really fished them because I bought them as backup to my Teckle Sprinkers, and I lost my last Sprinker last year, and I just really haven't fished a frog of that style since then. So I have them. I never even noticed that metal fin in the body in the tail till you mentioned that.
Yeah, it's clutch because you can change like how much it'll gurgle. If you give it more of a cupping action, it'll gurgle a little more.
Usually do. Girlfriend's watching. I'm gonna shit later for this.
Another thing that Oliver was actually talking about before about, because I solely throw a popping frog. I don't throw any other frogs, but how he was saying like the lip on the popping frogs, they get stuck in the real heavy stuff.
Yep.
And I like that. I also realized like if you pinch like by the hooks right here, you can get a little hole there. I realized that 3 BBs like from buckshot or that size, I don't know the exact size, but I stuff like 3 BBs in there. And when it's sitting in the thick stuff, it normally wants to sit like this, but when you put the 3 BBs in there, it actually like moves it almost to like that.
You can kind of walk up over everything.
Yeah, you'll kind of stay above it. And also in the thick stuff, them bigger fish, they usually just suck it down. So your frog's actually weighted, like, you know what I'm saying? So they're not, they're more likely going to grab it like this rather than grab it like this.
That's like a big Jason Christie thing. Like when he was on the Elite Series pre Bass Pro Tour, he always used to talk about that.
Yeah.
We need to use like legit split shot sometimes when we're fishing like the really thick cheese that we get on the West Coast. Because otherwise your frog wouldn't really be displacing anything. These fish would have a harder time like actually tracking it, and they would just blow up next to it and miss it, or blow it up off the cheese, and making it heavy helps get those fish in the boat sometimes. But as soon as you hit open water, they'd stink, which is fine.
Yeah. No, that makes sense though. So on the topic of frogs, is there anything else? No, everybody's talked about their top 3s.
Well, I only gave you one. Like mine's the Cara, 100%. That's my tiny frog. My big one's the Mullock Sneaky Frog. Okay. And then, which is really, really long. And it really goes side to side a lot. And it's like, if you're going like open water to like light stuff to open water, like it, especially if you're going down like a steep drop off, it'll walk really good outside of like some cheese and stuff. And then my popping frog's a Terminator popping frog.
Is that the big one?
What is that one?
It's finessey. It looks so much like the one Mike was holding up. That's what I thought it was.
We got a recent order of a bunch of finessey baby frogs. Didn't we, Andrew?
Whoops.
Didn't we get a lot of those?
We got a lot of them. Whoops.
We were putting together an order from Strike King, and it was last week right before the stream, and I had to go up and take care of the kids, and I was like, I left down frogs, just throw a bunch in the box and in the cart. And he's like, okay. And I came back down like 15 minutes later. He's like, I got all the frogs we need. The package shows up. It's nothing but baby frogs. Like, which
Shit.
This don't work, but I didn't want a giant
That's
order
exactly
of
what
just
I didn't want.
baby frogs. There's some
Whoops.
great colors, though.
Yeah, the great colors.
Just
Size just isn't there.
little guys.
They're like 1 inch. Teeny tiny little things.
Yeah. So, when it comes to frog fishing, I know that when it comes to line more than anything, that can be a very hotly debated topic. I want to go dead last on this because I'm curious. What do you guys fish with for braid, and how, I guess, adamant are you about your line weight on it? Because there are some people where like it really, really matters to them. Like it has to be deadly specific. I know there are people that just have a whole range of like, yeah, I know anything like this works. So I'm curious what your guys' lines of thoughts are when it comes to frogs, what your line, rod, and reel setups are for them.
I'm interested to hear from the non-Northeast guy.
Situational.
Yeah.
See, I like that
Something
answer.
that.
I mean, I don't just throw a frog in one place.
Yeah.
So it could be super heavy cover where I got to wind a fish through 20 to 50 yards of crap. And in that scenario, it's probably going to be something like 70-pound Defiant smooth casting braid. So I can literally just winch, hopefully, a fish 5 pounds or bigger, like through that crap. And then the lesser the cover and the lesser the danger of that fish wrapping you in stuff, the lighter I can go. Down to 50, down to 40. I don't really go below 40-pound braid for hardly anything.
All right. I like it. So I'm kind of along the same lines as you. I do have a dedicated, well, mostly dedicated frog rod, but I only throw 50-pound on it. And that more than anything is because of the reel that I have, where it's a Shimano Corrado, and I tried 65 on it, and that's the first braid that I threw on it, and it did well enough.
Puppy.
And then I had to buy new line. I couldn't find 65-pound of the brand that I like, so I just went with 50. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Really, it shouldn't matter that much. And I'm actually happier that I went down because I haven't had an issue fishing in anything super heavy. But the castability of the 50 versus the 65 on my specific setup was not necessarily drastically improved, but definitely improved. So I'm happy that I downsized just out of necessity because I couldn't find the line weight that I wanted. But I have a second topwater rod that has 30-pound braid that I would throw things like your walking baits, the pompadour, whopper plopper, like anything like that. And I have thrown a frog on that when I'm fishing, like, you know, those teeny tiny, like quarter-size lily pads that get everywhere, like things like that. Or if I'm just fishing like open water, then I can, I've thrown my frog on that lighter setup sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm with you too. Like I have a designated setup, and it's on a smaller rod, and I run 40-pound braid. But I wouldn't be afraid to change it if I found myself like at a place that at a time of the year where I was just like changing up from my norm, maybe using a frog that I haven't really been into as much, or, you know, like I'm not afraid to be flexible. Like Ish throws 80-pound samurai braid, like, which is a lot like 70-pound Defiant. Like they're pretty close, Defiant and Samurai. Like I wouldn't be afraid to go to a big, 7.6, 7.8, 7.9 meat mop on big line if I was in those circumstances. But like, I'm not at the Delta. Like I'm not at, Nacognish or Nacogdoches in Texas. Like I haven't been there throwing the Kermit yet. So, like right now I can throw a smaller setup like a Kara on 40-pound on a 611, it's not a big deal. I don't really need any more muscle than that.
Yep.
See, my philosophy comes from the oddball chance that an 8 to 13-pounder eats that frog in that slop. And I want to be prepared and be able to control that fish if that happens. Not really a thing up here, obviously.
No, we don't.
Class,
we don't
but
run into those.
7 and 8, totally possible.
Yeah.
So it's really all in your mindset. If you want to be hyper efficient for the majority of your bites, you can get away with the lighter line. But that one time, man, the biggest bass of your life ate that frog, and you couldn't pull on it just a hair more to keep control is when that can haunt you. So it's just, what are you willing to give up? You willing to give up the proficiency in fishing a lighter line for the vast majority of the bites you'll get in this region? Or are you not going to chance it if you're hyper focused on that, like catching a really big one on a frog?
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's a very, very valid point.
I don't throw anything less than, I throw in between 50 or 60. I really have
Sure,
no
I'm out
preference.
too.
Whatever I pull out of the box when I have to respool my frog rod, that's what's going to go on.
Yep.
And I prefer personally, because like Oliver said, we don't have many of those 7 and 8 pound bass up here in the north. So my frog rod is the 7.4 moderate fast, heavy moderate fast. That's what I like. That's what works for me.
That's sweet.
I
Yo,
wish
I got a question though that I'd really love to hear from everyone, because I'm very opinionated about it and it's very relevant to what's in the chat right now. How do you guys feel about modifying your hooks on your frogs?
which is funny because I got that text from my buddy Chad as well. I
have a
not.
huge, like, this is where I lie with a very strong opinion. I mean, I'll go first, but I'd rather hear from everybody else first.
No,
I
go
don't
first.
touch the hooks.
Okay.
I leave them
Well,
as
I
is.
bend my hooks not ever up. Never, never, never. I take my hooks and I bend them out a little. That's how I bring them. Is I take 2 pairs of pliers and I go and I pull them that way to give myself a little more bite. Like, oh, you can't see me. A little more like bite when I yoink on them,
T-Rex.
right? But never ever do I bend the
Ben Stiller
tips
from
up,
Dodgeball.
because then those tips just scratch the roof of a fish's mouth instead of ever driving in. They never get in. They just go like, I can't do it. Drives me insane. I hate when people are like, just bend the hooks, man. I'm like, you need to be more specific when you're teaching like new people what bend the hooks means. Oh, it bugs the snot out of me.
I've actually never bent the hook on a frog that I'm fishing.
Really?
It's better than bending them the wrong way.
I just find a frog that's really soft that'll fold around the hooks.
I always bend my hooks.
You what?
Always bend my hooks.
Do you tip them up?
No, I bend them out. I stretch
Oh,
them
you do
out.
what I do?
He was
Okay.
doing
Same
exactly
thing he was
what
doing,
you were
yeah.
talking about as you were saying it.
I like
Okay.
them. I like them just enough so that they're not touching the body. Like, I don't like when they're touching the body, but as soon as they're right off the body, I feel like I get a lot better hookups.
I love it.
That's what I like about that jackal is the hooks. They're not quite touching the body, but they're pretty close. So I haven't had a problem with hooking up on these. If they eat it, I hook up. So I haven't had to even think about anything like that yet, where I've thought like, oh shit, maybe I should bend them out or bend them up or anything. My hookup ratio on my frogs has been good, whether just pure luck or the timing and the strength and overall sweep on my hook set is just good, or what. I've been very fortunate on my frogs. I rarely miss them. If they eat it, I put them in the boat. Then again, I don't catch that many frogfish either anyway, so it's kind of some balance there.
I'm kind of with you on that one, Sean. I feel like your timing and your mechanics would probably have, at least they have for me, a more dramatic effect on my frog success than tweaking the hooks, because I literally don't touch my hooks.
Yep.
But
No,
making sure I don't pull that bait from a fish, and making sure I get a clean hook set and keep that fish, coming at me in a steady, constant manner, so it can't bury me into the whatever it is, seems more important to me.
Yep. So one of the other big questions I know a lot of people talk about, how long do you this is definitely a much more situational question than anything else, but how long on average, assuming it's just a nice clean bite, do you let a fish sit with a frog before you set the hook?
Until I can't see it, usually. I mean, I'm pretty laser focused on that orange or red mouth usually. And if that
You
thing
were
is
laser
gone,
focused on your glide bait last week, I tell you that.
nah, really.
Dick.
It was his birthday. I'll let him have that one.
I want to hear this story after the frogs.
No, I think
Doesn't sound like a good
I need to feel it. Like normally I need to feel it. Like I don't know.
I'm with Mike too. That's 100% it. Is like when I see it drop, dude, I kick the handle like real light till I feel him. So then I just lean, like I'm leaning back, and as my body angle changes, the rod tip angle changes. Like when I'm working that thing out in front of me, like I want to actually feel him put tension, like, and hopefully he goes sideways or something, but put tension on that braid before I crack him, you know?
Yep.
Like, I don't want that like old school, like my father's generation where they like gave him slack and reeled down and like made sure the frog was under. And then they like I can't do it. Like I need to stay in constant contact with that fish so much better.
Yep. I'm more along the lines of between what you and Oliver were saying here. It depends, because especially when you're fishing pads, your line doesn't always want to stay straight line between you and the boats. If you're moving a little bit, if there's some wind, sometimes your line gets a little cupped around a lily pad or something. But I always maintain very, very, very light tension on my line when I'm fishing frogs, so that when they bite it, I really don't have to do anything other than just basically snap my wrist up. But for me, as soon as I feel the explosion, I go back and I look at my line right where it's coming back out of the water, and I wait to see, like, light tension. Is my rod tip going down? Am I seeing my line go down? And if I see just enough continuous movement where they're going, I will wait upwards of 1 second, really. If I know that it's going down, and especially with some good speed, I'll set the hook. If it's not really moving, I'm not sure, I'll wait another 1 to upwards of 3 seconds, but it's rare that I need to wait even 3 seconds. So they either have it or they don't. But most of the time they get a really good bite for me on that first bite. There's only a couple times where, unless they're just, quick chomping it down in 3 or 4 bites, like really, really quick, rarely do like they get it and swim with it for a second, then, like 2 or 3 seconds later. So I don't feel the need to wait that long. And then my hook set, which I really feel is what helps me with my incredibly high hookup ratio on a frog.
Mark McGuire.
But not really. When it's a jig, yeah, I'm swinging for the fences home run every single time. But with a frog, it's fast but short. So, I mean, it's real quick, but I only go from basically like, we'll say 10 o'clock to like maybe 11 o'clock. It's more like 10:45. But it's as fast and quick and violent as I can in a really short distance. And then I bring it down to about like 10% of that power and then just keep sweeping from there. So I'm trying to pop the hooks in, but then continue to pull in from there in case I didn't quite get a good hook set. And just for me, that works. I've got it down. Versus if I'm fishing a jig on fluoro, I'm like rod tip to the water and then all the way back over my back again. But with braid, I know how to compensate for that because I had to learn the hard way. I lost a lot of fish from overdoing it. So it's just that real quick stop and then just keep going, just leaning into it back from there. But that works for me, especially with like that line watching method I have versus like trying to look for the fish. I don't know. It's the best way I can explain it.
It's funny to have like the 5 of us on together and talk about this though, because like, I watch a lot of YouTube. Like I nerd out. It's, my thing. Like and you guys too, I'm sure, because it's cold up there all winter long. You got 6 months of it being freezing. Like, and so I kind of know what all 5 of our general strengths are. And it's funny how we all kind of use different cues to like talk about this topic, and you can relate all of these cues kind of like back to what our strength is. Like Oliver first talked about being very visual, and that's because Oliver is a very like Oliver, when he talks about being hyper focused, like his probably one of his biggest strengths is his eyes. Like he sees everything, like everything. And like me and Sean, like we really like, I think we're more like touchy feely fishermen. Like tactile awareness is a lot like higher for us. Yeah, of course, Oliver most like I'll just slide my hand over. But like we're more like tactile fishermen, and like Mike is too. Like Mike, he talked about reeling down, like, and staying and waiting to feel the bite. And I think that's just kind of like a product of like what our strengths are and stuff. Like it's just funny to hear the differences. And like, I just wanted to point it out because I think like for the viewers that kind of watch who are really trying to like soak this in, I think they can kind of relate a lot of it back to like what kind of fishermen they kind of think they are right at this moment, you know?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you there, bud. Mike, did you talk about like I forget. Did you get your response in on that?
I did.
Okay. So I wanted to make sure I didn't forget.
He's touchy-feely too.
He's very
Touchy-feely.
touchy-feely. So South Jersey had a good question. If you're not getting bites on frog, do you guys switch to a fluke or sinking walking bait if area you're fishing allows for it?
Toad. I'm going to a toad.
Depends. If I'm just
Figure
fishing
that
for
out.
fun, I just pass that fish up and hit it on the way back. But normally, if I'm in a tournament, I probably would try like a toad.
What about you?
What would I do?
Yeah. Waiting on you and Oliver before I go.
If I wasn't in a tournament, yeah, I'd probably just move on and be like, whatever. It's probably not that big. I'm in New Hampshire.
Be nice.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna try things like a soft jerk bait is a great tool for a lot of that same cover, especially on the edges of stuff.
You got me into
But
that.
after what I saw over the last week, a sleeper gill might be worked into that because they were eating the crap out of that thing.
See, I really want to get my hands on those. I forgot to order them again, and I just realized.
I know where you can get a
jig
few,
order
Sean.
tonight too.
Sean, text me after the show. I know where you can get a few. They're not sold out yet.
All right, that works. Thank you. We gotta place a jig order tonight. I gotta remember that. We need
More?
we're out of what football jigs. I'm thinking about things.
Jesus Christ.
So
A
I'm
weedless
with you,
small
Oliver.
swim bait would be a good option for me too to cover that same amount of water and get fish that don't want to break that plane of the surface because there are just some days, even when the conditions set up for it, they just will not eat a topwater. And if you literally just fish a bait below that very plane of the surface of the water, you'll get fish to eat for whatever reason. And a weedless swim bait, either weightless or with like a punch weight so you can burn it, has been really effective for me in those shallow water cover situations where they won't eat a frog.
Depending how thick it is, I'll throw a swim jig through it.
I was gonna say. So I that's a great suggestion there, Oliver. I never even considered that, but as soon as you said it, I was like, holy shit, that makes all the sense in the world. Because when I frog fish, I'll do the same thing for a swim bait, but I throw it on the back of a swim jig. Or what my usual go-to more often than not is just a fluke, a weightless Texas rig fluke, but on a heavier gauge hook. I think I usually throw a 4/0 extra wide gap, like was it the Superline hooks from Gamakatsu, where it's like that thicker gauge.
Superline.
And yeah, Superline. Thank you. So with that, it helps it slide down under the pads, and I can work it more like a jerk bait versus if I throw like a traditional style gauge hook. I can't really work it the way I want to, but I always have all three when I go frog fishing. If I'm throwing a frog and they're not really committed to it, or like conditions look right, I know the fish are up there, or they're short striking the shit out of it, then I'll bust out the swim jig with a swim bait, and
Or Texas rig.
yeah, sometimes Texas rig, but those are my other two go-tos: the swim jig with a swim bait trailer in the back, or then especially fluke
I gotta pee.
or even a Senko. All right, have fun. But
Put the toilet seat back up.
Okay.
Someone had to say it. Hey, if you guys want to have some fun too in that scenario, a bait that we were having a lot of success with early this year when we were in Florida around a lot of froggy cover, but they wouldn't eat the frog yet because it was January and February and like as cold as the Northeast the entire time we were there for some reason. Riley and I were catching them really good on a soft bait made by Gancraft. It's called the S shape. So if you guys are familiar with jointed claw, think of a soft jointed claw glide bait.
Really?
That you can fish weightless on a Texas rig or on a swim bait hook like a BKK Titan diver system, but you can like twitch it around like a traditional soft jerk bait, but you can also swim it and it would actually glide.
No
So
shit.
that was something that those fish hadn't seen yet, was that glide motion and all that heavy vegetation.
How was that
So-
big depths?
And they make it in a couple sizes. I've actually been drop shotting the 2.8 inch as a finesse bait. And I feel sorry for these smallmouth up here this summer because they're going to get their asses eating that thing. But I was actually trying to Carolina rig the big one. It's a 5.8-inch bait. I was showing that to Mike last year when we were on the St. Lawrence River, but I just never fished deep. So I didn't try it. But like fishing it in and around shallow grass or pads or reed edges could be a really effective way for you guys to get bites, especially if they see like a zoom fluke a lot, which a lot of fish do.
Oh yeah.
Just try something a little different.
Yep. I like it. All right. I want to change over to some other baits because we pretty much dedicated this whole time just to talking about buzzbaits and frogs, which I intended to. I just didn't think it was going to quite take us this long, and it's getting pretty late. So I want to give at least some honorable mention, some time to some other baits on both ends of the spectrum here for sizes. So I would think beyond buzzbait and frog, probably the other most common topwater bait. It's especially now the last few years. I was gonna say either spook or whopper plopper, unless there's something else I'm not thinking of. I feel like those are popper, spook, and whopper plopper are probably the three other most common topwaters that other people would use. Whopper plopper, I just burn it back. Yes, with the feathered tail. That's what I like to see. What you got there, buddy?
I love feathers.
Snacks.
Have some?
Yeah. Oh, the gluten-free ones
So
too.
my girlfriend's gluten-free. Those are freaking amazing.
Dude, they're like the only good thing in this planet that's gluten free.
Are these gluten-free?
Seriously. What the hell is that thing?
That's a honey bun.
Honey bun, bud.
Yeah.
I'll let all you guys.
Come on.
You know what? Funny enough, I'm going to the doctor tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock to get blood work done to find out if I have celiacs or some gluten intolerance, which would be fun.
Fingers crossed,
You
bud.
can eat the Oreos.
Yeah, well,
They're really good. They're better than normal Oreos.
Really?
I promise.
I found plenty of gluten-free foods that I don't know if it's just our region or what, but going gluten-free, no, it really hasn't been hard, and there's been plenty of good foods. When I went on a keto diet, I found that pretty much everything that was also keto friendly happened to be gluten free. So I found a lot of good stuff and it works. And then when I went back to eating like crap, I can do that for you. When I went back to eating like crap, I noticed like a lot of my stomach issues came back. So I was like, huh. So I ate like literally everything I could that was like dog shit bad food for me.
Every time I showed
gluten.
up with a bag of Doritos, she's like, oh, got some.
And all my issues went away. So I finally went to the doctor the first time in years on Monday, and he was like, I tell him all this. He's like, we need to do blood work on you, man. I was like, all right, I don't care. We need to figure this out. But anyway, I digress. I got you, buddy. I got plenty of gluten-free options for you. My wife has a bomb peanut butter cookie recipe that is gluten-free.
Oh, yeah. There's. Mm-hmm.
It's Andrew approved.
Well, I need some help because I'm not the one that's got the issues, but I got to suffer with everybody.
He's not suffering.
I feel your pain.
Don't let him be dramatic. He's not suffering. He's happy to be supportive.
He is.
I want to see Riley just come in and slap you off camera.
Waiting for
She
it.
was just standing in the doorway when I came back too.
I'll let the boys go
Mario's
first
back.
on this other topwater bait subject because I can go off the deep end.
Oh yeah, we're starting to get to my like meat and potatoes here. Mike,
Yeah,
let me
okay,
finish
so-
two and move out.
Aside from obviously frogs and buzzbaits we covered, for other traditionals we were talking about whopper ploppers, poppers, walking baits, like those I feel are the more common other topwaters. What are your other go-tos? And then elaborate on it. Like, why is it your other go-to? What do you like doing with it? What are the conditions you like really throwing it? Like, I don't know, Mike, if you want to take it first and then let Joe get into it so you can keep munching on his food. I'm going to get water while you start.
I'll take it first. I guess my first would be if I'm not throwing a popper, a frog, or a buzzbait. I like the Mega Bass Diamante. That's probably my favorite spook bait. And then if I was going to go with something a little bit different, I would probably go with Bagley Sunny B. It's like a prop bait. It's like almost like looks like a Rapala DT10 body, but with two little props.
Oh,
That
okay,
sounds
I
pretty
got you.
neat.
Now I know what you're talking
I
about.
pull it up. I don't have any with me, but I pull it up for you.
Like those needlefish style prop baits.
No,
on
no,
the needle body.
that's a different. They make one like that, but that's not the one I'm talking about.
Oh,
The one I'm talking about looks like this.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Norman makes one like that too.
Yeah, similar. But I like that when it's like, because I don't believe in like it needs to be overcast or something to throw top water, because I've had many good days top water, bluebird skies, sunny and hot as hell. It don't matter. But I realized that with the prop bait, that it's kind of like a buzz bait and it's kind of like a spook, because you can kind of like twitch it like that, but it's very subtle. It's almost like flickering bait fish, almost like it's kind of like it's not like a serious commotion. I think it just gets their attention when they're looking up.
The top water.
Those would be my two. Other than
So I know the reason I know that one's good, even though I've never thrown it, is because PH Customs, which is this custom balsa company that makes like $30 lures, all handmade, and they're all like one-off. Like he makes one that's that style. Like Wesley Strader uses those, and I think he has that exact style named after him. The guy who does PH Custom Lures makes them.
Sweet.
I think that was actually my first one I got. Prop bait was a PH Customs.
You ready to go off the deep end?
I am a wealth of stupid knowledge when it comes to fishing lures.
You're up.
All right, so definitely 9. The first 9 out of 10 baits I'm going to throw is always that Sixth Sense or that Vixen. That style, that heavy, like 6, 7, 8-year-old. It's always a 3-hook walking bait, always. And I like the ones that sit up higher. I'm not like a Zara Super Spook guy where they sit flat. I think there's a time and place for them, but I don't really throw them as much. I have one color in the Super Spook, whereas I have a lot of different brands like the Silent Diamantes and stuff like that. But the first one is always that old school one. Second, I like some of the like Ima and Shower Blows style walking topwater baits that kick out a little water. Ima makes like a 130. There's a Shower Blows 130. Like I like those long stick baits that actually are wider in the butt end than they are in the nose. But they have kind of a cup that'll throw a little water. I'm definitely like those. And then I throw a lot of Ricos and Rio Ricos. I always have had success on them. I wish I still had the pop R's I had when I was a kid. The pop R's from the 90s were some of my favorites. They were good. They were painted right. And they just flat out caught them. And I don't think they make them like they used to. I wish I could go back 25 years and buy some more. I really do. I wish I still had them. Because I don't think the color mattered as much back then. I think the baits were made really, really, really good. I mean, I can think of some that I know had upwards of 1,000 fish catches on them and stuff. I wish I could find them at my parents' house. So yeah, those are like my 3 big ones. It's kind of simple, but top water, I keep it simple.
What about you, Oliver? I say, yeah, you're gonna pick your top 3 though.
Oh man, that sucks.
What's your absolute favorite? That's got to be the easiest one. What's your absolute, either it's favorite for just the style of how they eat it or just what you get to throw it on or whatever. There's got to be something that's like top of the list.
All right, if you're just talking about overall experience and just enjoyment of working the bait and the subsequent explosions that occur on it, and versus the effectiveness of catching numbers of fish per se, it would be that Defiant bird crawler. I mean, I've caught giant muskies, giant pike, largemouth, smallmouth, giant Murray caught on it. It's an incredible bait that just gets absolutely destroyed by everything big. And we designed that thing for largemouth fishing, and it just still turns out like everything big wants to kill it. So that's by far my favorite thing. But I mean, dude, topwater fishing is my favorite genre of fishing. Like to watch a fish, hopefully a big one, eat something on top where you see it happen. Hopefully,
scares the
scares
shit
crap
out of you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my jam. So I geek out on all of it. I love every genre of topwater bait there is. I've got some solid favorites. That Diamante that Mike talks about is probably one of my most efficient baits, like for covering water, for catching fish. That thing in a color like Sexy French Pearl or the Bass Patterns, Raigu, that's almost always on my deck. The Bahama Milk Pearl is a great color. And then if I need a fish a little bit slower, a popper, like a Pop Max to the Pop X to the Baby Pop X, and now the Poppy McPop Face. I mean, those are all important baits, and they're all situational. And that's the beauty of it. Like, you can find so many different places and ways to fish a topwater bait. You guys talk about the plopper. I haven't thrown any whopper plopper since like 2008. Why? Because everybody and their mom does. So
I think I've caught two
really
fish on it and I gave it up.
And I know if people will catch them on it, but I know that I can catch fishing behind guys if they're all doing the same circle jerk. And one of the baits that I really fell in love with for fishing behind plopper guys was actually a spy bait made by Megabass that's now discontinued. It's called an Explos. And instead of fishing at subsurface, and this is a big spy bait. It's 4 3/4 inches or something. It's not like those little finessey spy baits. Like, it's big. And I was just buzzing it on top and watching fish lose their minds on it because they had never seen or heard or felt that before. So if you guys can find any of those are hidden gems. And that kind of led me into prop bait fishing, which I fell in love with, the Megabass Eye Loud. Initially, I would only catch them waking it. So I'm like, oh, it's a single jointed bait. It's got a props, probably just making noise. But if you actually watch a video that we posted on the Big Bass Streams channel earlier this year, where we're fishing that thing, like, I figured out there's a multitude of ways you can fish that thing. You can pop it like a big popper. You can pull it and pause it. You can actually, I could get it to like spit water a certain way and make this certain sound to where like that ass end actually like kicks out of the water. And as soon as it comes to a stop, man, fish would hammer it. So I've really fallen in love with the prop bait. We got another tackle breakdown coming out with that Nishine albino prop bait. And I think it's like a 110. So it's a big double-sided prop bait with a really cool metal blade attachment on the belly. Caught the crap out of them on that one. We're doing a tackle breakdown video that drops on the channel tomorrow on a Megabass Karashi. Do you guys know what that is?
No.
You need to, because that is a bait that will get me topwater bites when fishing is tough, when fish are keyed in on bait smaller than 3 inches.
They're kind of hard to find, though.
Yeah, everything good is kind of hard to find. So that's actually not necessarily a true topwater bait, because it's I think it's a slow sinking stick bait. But
2.3 inches, that's tiny.
Dude. But when they're keyed in on small blueback herring or small threadfin shad or small silver sides or small alewives or herring or whatever the hell it is, if it's small and they will not eat a standard size topwater bait, you get yourself one of those Douglas rods that I've been fishing, an X Matrix, one of the longer ones. Some light braid. I've been fishing 10-pound Defiant braid because it's super thin, like 2-pound diameter. I can launch that 2.3-inch bait as far as you guys can throw any other topwater. So especially if you have fish like busting bait offshore and they're like just sporadically busting around the boat and you got to be like on top of a feeding fish, that bait is magical. And people at home got butthurt at me because I started talking about it publicly. But it will catch them. And if you watch a video tomorrow, like, you'll see, like, you can fish it fast and erratic and get it to walk and spit and all of this crap. Dude, big fish eat it.
I need that. They literally have one that is
smelt
very spot on for smelt, and that will be a killer for a lot of those smallmouth lakes that we have around here, especially in New Hampshire, that are like, that is by far and large the primary forage. It's smelt, closely followed by yellow perch, which can vary in color very wildly, depending upon what body water. And like, I know the place we're going to go this Sunday, I get how much orange and how vivid the orange is on their undersides. It's like nuclear compared to everywhere else. There's
It's like that almost.
yeah, it's something special about it.
Ours came out to a nice deep golden brown in the fryer last night.
Yeah,
They're fantastic.
Fryer.
I can see why everything loves eating them. I mean, they're good to eat.
They're tasty.
You don't got yellow perch yet on the West Coast, so
You should take some.
oh my God, they're delicious.
That's
Yeah,
because
they
you
are.
got ring. That's because you got ring perch, right?
no. Virginia has ring perch. That's a state for lovers. That's their state slogan. You cross into the Virginia Commonwealth, it says Virginia,
Not
a
gonna
state for lovers, and ring perch. They call it yellow perch. Ring perch.
You're spot on though about like specifically the eye loud, like the different ways you can fish it. My buddy Travis Rocket, he's a guide here, licensed fishing guide in New Hampshire, and he was the one that put me onto that like 5 or 6 years ago now. I think it was a while ago. It may have been even longer than that now I think about it. Because when he first told me about it, I think it was like $30 for it. And back at that point, I was like, I'm not spending $30 on one topwater bait, which is funny because I am looking at 1, 2, 3 baits on the table right now that are all $150 and more, which is kind of funny. But and you're right, like that. He was the one that showed me. Like we went out into the same place we're going this weekend, and he was just crushing smallmouth on it because of the myriad ways that he could fish that bait specifically. And that's what I really like about that versatility and what you can do with it. Certainly not a one-trick pony.
Yeah, it's a fantastic bait.
Yeah.
But and anything big, like dude, I love throwing an oversized big walking bait like a mega dog, or taking saltwater stick baits like those cast ones. Like I'm excited to start playing around with those because I was already doing that with like discontinued saltwater mega bass baits that they made for amberjack and tuna fishing. Yeah. And I'm catching largemouth and smallmouth on these baits. You know, crawler baits of all kinds, of that big rat, craze. Like, I mean, I got to be on the front end of that stuff back at home, and man, anything big and topwater, you can count me in on.
Right. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that was the other thing I wanted to talk about before I change topics because I'm trying to be mindful of the time here. It's already 10 o'clock. Was there anything else anybody else wanted to add about like walkers or poppers or anything before I think we can probably close this out with like big baits for topwater, but last chance for anything else for the other baits before we move on.
I mean, like the only thing I'll say is, I mean, if you guys didn't see the episode we did with the Cast Boys, like their baits don't fall into any of the categories we're talking about. So
no, you're right. I watched that for like, I think I was able to catch 20 minutes before I got back to the editing grind. But yeah, I was watching that and seeing their baits. I was like, wow, those are in a class of their own.
Their social media is really cool too. Like you can find them on Instagram, like Cast Fishing, but like if you go through and look at all the reels and stuff, like they show how these baits do stuff that no other bait does. And every twitch and jerk and reel turn that you decide to do makes the bait do something different every time. And I just think like living in smallmouth country, or if you live down in spotted bass country where all those herring live, like it's a new way to get a topwater bite, and everybody loves topwater. And as long as you're not a friend or afraid to spend a couple bucks, which a lot of the viewers on our show and a lot of the viewers on your show aren't afraid to buy a Japanese priced bait or a swim bait priced bait. Like it's just nice to be able to see something that's really quality made that does something nothing else does, so that I feel like I can go out there and I might have this summer before everybody else starts throwing them and kind of figures out, it's just something different finally.
Yep.
Different's fun.
Yes, it is. So last but not least, I do want to talk a little bit about big baits because really there's two different classes, right? I mean, you have your wake baits and you have your rat, which is technically a wake bait, but depending on who you're talking to, they're in two entirely different classes of their own, but they're still just basically a giant topwater bait. So like, obviously, Oliver, I know you have quite a few options of these and you've been at this for a while. But for Mike and Joe, when it comes to like bigger baits, like this is a collaboration of OD Rat with Swimbait Scrutiny, and it's the Juice Rat. And Swimbait Scrutiny is another group of guys that are dedicated just to that big bait life here in New Hampshire. This is a DEFCON stubby wake and crank. I think that's 7 inches. and that's made from a guy, Rich, down in Massachusetts. That has been pretty good to me so far. What really killed it for me 2 years ago, but I really haven't had much luck on the Bullshad Bullwake from Bullshad Baits. Like this sunfish, it's quite the sexy wake bait, but doesn't really make much noise. It just purely wakes. All of these are my regular rotation for big baits, and I don't have it. It's still in my truck on another rod, but another one from LFOD Swim Baits, another Live For Your Die Swim Baits, based right here in New Hampshire. They have their monk, and it's I think it's a 3-ounce like chipmunk topwater bait, and it's got like a subtle knock to it. Then you got the Spro BBZ 50 Rat, which is one of the loudest topwater knocking baits that I have personally ever heard or used. Like those are all my rotation for absolute, like for big waking baits and like stuff we typically throw at night too when we're out there. But we've had a good time fishing those things even in the middle of the day. But for Mike and Joe, do you guys have anything along those lines in your like usual repertoire of big baits for topwater baits?
Go ahead, Zamp.
To be honest, I don't. But to be honest, again, after throwing that Bait Sanity Explorer gill, I feel like that would be a very good wake bait, because I actually caught one just kind of waking it right across the top, and then it clicked to me. And then it clicked to me like, oh, I'm gonna try this solely as a wake bait instead of fishing it, because it's a floating. But if you work your rod correctly, you can get it to go probably like 10 inches down. But it's, I don't know, it's cool. It was cool just to work it like a wake bait and get bit on it, as far as because you could just burn it right across the top and it'll just stay right on top of the water. It's pretty legit.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a really versatile bait.
So if I was going to throw one, it'd be that one, and haven't really messed around with anything else.
Well, I'm going to go and start by listing the Bait Sanity Explorer gill with Battletail. Yeah. No, I mean, I got to throw that down at the James and I loved it. I was throwing a white one down there. I thought it was one of the coolest baits. I actually went down there with a tater hog tied up. He makes a multi-joint with a lip. Gosh, for the life of me, I can't remember what he calls it. But, you know, I went down there with that tied on and the Explorer gill tied on. And once I made a cast with the Explorer gill, I threw it the whole time. Like anytime I wanted to fish like up on top, I threw the Explorer gill with the paddle tail on it. I never switched and put the original tail back on. It's just, I liked it on top. It was nice. So yeah, I mean, I really only throw taters and the Bait Sanity, and probably, I don't know how much more I'll even throw the tater, just because I like the bluegill profile, the idea of the bluegill profile rather than the shad or herring profile.
There is no shortage of bluegill, pumpkin seeds, and other sunfish here in the Northeast, for sure.
That's for damn
not.
true. We have so many of them that they like, when you, especially in New Hampshire, we have like all the depth maps, and then they usually list out like most of the species in there, and they just write CSP for common sunfish, or sorry, CSF, common sunfish, because we have pumpkin seed sunfish, bluegill, red ear sunfish.
The
There's
mighty
like
rock bass.
yeah, that little stupid bastard, which is starting to explode in some of our favorite smallmouth lakes, unfortunately. Crappie, like there's just, although black crappie and white black crappie they actually list out separately because they're not found quite as commonly as like sunfish, but there's like at least 2 or all of the species of sunfish in like every freaking body of water in New Hampshire. So yeah,
Actually caught the unofficial state record black crappie.
yeah. What was it? Full inch longer than the state record?
It was state record 17.25 inches, I think, and mine was 18.5.
It's a giant.
Yeah, that's
slab.
like way bigger than a cast iron.
Did you
pan.
weigh it?
I didn't.
You didn't have a scale.
It's got to be close to 3.
It was kind of thin.
It was kind of thin. It wasn't super fat.
But it was tall.
Yeah, I mean,
You should find the picture, and we'll share it up here in a second. But yeah, he was showing us pictures of it the next day, and everybody's like, Jesus Christ, dude, I think you had the state record. He's like, huh. And he looks it up. He's just like, fuck.
It was big.
That was a giant.
It was a couple years ago, so this might take a minute.
All right, while you're looking for that, But yeah, no, sorry, you're absolutely right there, Oliver. There's absolutely no shortage of sunfish out here and different profile baits that work for it. Get them.
I couldn't even go down a dock line without Oliver like legitimately like in the back, like, oh, look at that bluegill. He's like shaking. He's like, tie me a rod, tie me a rod. He's like out of like he was like a kid in a candy store. And he was getting upset that no one wanted to fish for sunfish. He was upset about it.
Hey, you guys are losers. Dude, that thing's a tank.
Wow.
I don't know if you can see if it's zoomed in or,
No, I
focused or
can't.
not, but it's
You can see it. It stinks huge.
large.
Yeah, that was not a small one.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
He's got the cord.
Hey,
Jerkbait.
Was that the same day you caught that 6-pound largie?
Yeah. Like 3 casts after.
Okay.
They're sweeping that up tomorrow.
All right. I mean, at this point, it's 10:10. I try to keep this to about 2 hours. I'm just trying to think, is there anything that we didn't cover that would be a good time to talk about now for Topwater? We covered buzzbait, we covered frogs, we covered our walking baits, ploppers, poppers. Oh, we covered some different things. We covered the big baits, the crawlers. Like, was there anything else in here that we didn't discuss? We even covered gear, which is really important.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing we kind of left out was, you know, a little bit of hooks and mono versus braid conversation. You know,
That's actually okay, and you're very right on that. So let's take a moment to talk about that, because I'm curious to hear what you guys do differently, if you even do anything different at all. For what I personally do, if it's topwater, it's braid. And the only exception is when I'm throwing these bigger baits, because I have a limited selection of my bigger swim bait rods that are capable of throwing things like that. So all of those are fluorocarbon. But those baits are so damn heavy, and especially that Defiant 23.8 pound fluoro that you guys hooked me up with at the show.
I need to get some.
I keep telling you, I have enough on that spool that you can line 3 more
just
rods.
buy some more. You're gonna want more anyway. Just
Okay,
buy.
I'll
you guys liking that stuff?
Oh yeah, no, dude. Like, I've had 0 issues with casting my baits. Like, I have a friggin' all the confidence in the world. The castability on it's phenomenal. That is wicked good line.
Dude,
Beyond impressed with it.
I love that size.
Yeah, I
That
gotta get some.
28.9 is so sick.
Yep.
I love.
Yeah,
that
no,
size.
you
Oliver
need to
likes the
28.9?
35. I like the 28.9.
What did you hook me up with? I thought that was the 24. It was like 23.8 pounds.
Or 20. Yeah,
23.6.
both of them. Both
Okay.
of them. I use them both.
Okay. I honestly wouldn't mind going a little bit heavier if I could, just because like some of my baits.
Try the 28.
Yeah, that's the 28. I use them both.
28.
You
Okay,
need
gotcha.
28 probably for that depths.
For
Boy, I
that
see you
250, I
casting
would
that
definitely
thing.
not be fishing anything less than 28.
Okay.
Which, by the way, that speaking of that depths,
Actually, you can get it the same
Christ.
place that I know has the sleeper gills. So text
I was gonna
me
blow it
after.
up, but I was afraid that everybody would buy them out and you get asked out.
I-
So,
I won't get left out. Don't worry.
no, I'm talking about Sean.
Oh yeah, no.
yeah, no, we can sort that out right after this, so I can order them so I don't miss out.
Yeah, we'll hook you up.
It's on my story.
But yeah,
Speaking
I'm
of-
with you, man. Braid with short floor leader for me.
Holy
See,
shit, dude.
I had a rod specifically built by Wicked Custom Rods with bigger than average guides so that I could throw a leader. Because I have an extra Super Duty 300 reel with just pure braid on it, and I was like, well, it'd be kind of nice. But I haven't tied a leader with my big baits yet.
How about you just tie a really short leader so you don't actually wind your knot through your tip?
Then there's that.
Because here's the thing: is the leader doesn't need to be more than 6 inches long. The only reason you're using it is so that your hooks don't hang on the soft braid. It just points the line away from your bait better when it lands and when it's flying through the air, so your hooks don't catch on the braid. Like, that's the only reason you're using it.
See, these are the things. This is why I'm glad we have you guys on, because I never even would have thought about that. But then again, my experience with the bigger baits and bigger line and things like that is extremely limited. So I haven't even stopped to think about those yet.
What was the comment that you made when you observed tying on my leader material for that topwater the other day, Mike?
Oh,
This stuff is like rope.
yeah. He was like, yeah, just grab some of this, and I was like, I pulled it out, and I was like, yo, this is crazy. It was like legitimately as thick as my charging wire for my laptop.
Jesus.
But I didn't. But I didn't even question you. I didn't question you one bit. I said, okay. I caught a piece. I tied my leader. And I started fishing. Like I don't.
When you start catching them.
I did.
That super thick, stiff fluorocarbon is fantastic for topwater because it doesn't allow that front treble hook, especially, to foul nearly as much as a limper option. Because that one time you made that perfect cast on either a boiling fish or right on the corner of that dock or right down that little grass lane is when your straight braid is going to foul hook your bait or it's going to tumble in the air, and now you just blew it. That very rarely happens to me because I fish that super stiff Defiant shock leader fluoro.
Yeah.
Okay, I need that.
Makes it that much more efficient. And I'm not winding through the guide, so it doesn't matter if you're fishing micro guides or whatnot. Like 10 to 15 inches is usually what I'm aiming for, kind of roughly, when I'm tying my leaders. And since it's heavier leader, like I don't fish anything less than that 23 pound for my topwater applications. I can fish an entire day waxing big fish without having to retie.
All right, I need that.
I was gonna say,
I hate retying.
We posted that reel of him setting his depths, and like ever since that, dude, that thing is blowing up. We were looking at it last night, and it was at like
I hate watching it.
14,000 views or whatever, and I just checked it again. It's already at 23,000 views. It just keeps going. Every time I open my phone, it's like ding, another freaking 50 notifications.
I hope you guys turn your bonuses on.
Oh yeah. I'm looking forward to that paycheck. But yeah, like, because when he broke that off, you had what, like 3 or 4 feet of line on it where it broke?
Yeah.
But yeah,
I also had just caught a fish on it.
Near the rocks. See, we weren't sure if you had a nick in it.
Into the rocks.
Yeah, probably.
I can't
anyway,
tell.
Yeah, you need heavier line.
6 ounce bait like that, Andrew, I'd be fishing on the light side, 28.9 pound heavy cover fluoro. And usually like 6+ ounces, I'm throwing 35. I hate losing baits and I hate losing fish. So
yeah, I'm terrified every time I cast it now.
I
retie. I usually never retie ever, and I
very rarely retie because I don't have to.
Yep.
Right. Now I retie all the time.
Yeah.
I'm terrified.
Get you that 28 pound. You won't have to worry about it.
Oh, freaking money
for a little bit more.
Eating the fuzz.
He is. He's like swallowing.
Oliver's gonna be chasing the dog tomorrow, like trying to get like whatever he's eaten out of him.
I'm just gonna stay on land and just play with the dog the whole time we're up north.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna talk about that after the show. By the way, we got some updates for you. Well, mostly we're still waiting on this guy, but at least we've narrowed down dates.
Get it together.
Go? Okay, we have dates. We have everything. We'll talk after this. Last thing I want to talk about, South Jersey. Thank you for the reminder on. All he had to say was wake baits, and it reminded me of the question I want to ask you, Oliver. When you're fishing wake baits, how often do you work in a pause, and what do those pauses look like? And I know it's definitely going to be more dependent upon water temp and time of the year conditions, but like, what I guess try and narrow it down as much as you can. Like when you're working a wake bait, how often are you just straight retrieving that thing versus like how often are you working in pauses in it?
The best answer I can give you is that I'm always adjusting my retrieve and presentation. So I'll try to work a bait a certain way, 5 to 15 casts. If I feel like there's fish in the area and they just aren't responding to that, I'm going to change it. So I'm always trying to figure out how to trigger those fish, and it's always different. So I can't give you a situation where like, oh, you only want to steady wake it in this scenario, or you want to 3-second pause with 3 winds in this scenario. It's literally discovery each and every time out we're fishing. Even when we're throwing Poppy McPopface with Mike the other day, like I was popping it, I was walking it, I was chugging it, I was letting it sit for a while. Like I was just trying something different all the time. And that's no matter what I'm fishing, I'm trying something different all the time.
Okay, that's fair enough. So then one other question in regards to that, because I'm just curious. What's the coldest water temps you've been able to make topwater work? And I'll go. I'm more curious about the bigger baits side of things, like giant wake baits and stuff. Like how cold have you been able to be? Like at least moderately successful days with it.
I mean, moderately successful is one bite most of the time in the pond. So I've caught them in the dead of our winters. So as cold as it gets for us, I've caught them on topwater. Not often.
How cold does your water get out there in the winter?
Depends if you're sea level or close to it. Low 50s usually to high 40s. And if you get up into elevation, much colder.
Like Tahoe.
I don't know because I don't go up there when it's that cold. The hell for?
You're smart.
Right.
Freaking LA County.
Like,
Yeah.
see, karma.
Easy.
LA gets hot.
Yeah.
When I was out there, holy shit, it got hot.
When
It
am I
can.
going? I'm going in September. I hope it's not too hot.
I
Well,
went
I'm
to a
not
Dodgers
really, I'm
game,
going
it was
outside
like-
of it.
100 degrees out down there, and then I went back out to where I was in Ventura, and it was like 80.
80
Yeah, and it was
because you're on the
way
coast.
hotter in the city. Yeah, well, yeah, we're
Yeah.
right on the ocean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. You know what? That's a good time to call it quits. It's already way later than I meant for this to go, but I appreciate you guys' time anyway. So for everybody that's still hanging around, do me a favor. I don't have it in the video description yet, but I'll put it in there. I'm going to put in social media links, obviously, for everything Big Bass Dreams, for Oliver, for Joe, for Mike. Go give everyone a follow. Go subscribe to all their channels. Mike's got his. Oliver has his. We have Big Bass Dreams, the whole 9 yards. Last but not least, for us, if you could do us a favor, drop a like on the stream if you haven't. Totally forgot to ask for that at the beginning of the stream, but hopefully you guys had our back anyway. And we greatly
got
appreciate
you.
everybody that came to watch the show tonight, and hopefully we answered a lot of your questions. We did dedicate a lot of time to 2 very specific techniques, but for me, I feel those were like the 2 most common techniques that I've heard everybody talk about, like in person, after tournaments, online forums, like you name it. Like buzzbait and frogs are 2 of the most common ones. And then we did get to dive into quite a bit on other things, gear, the whole 9 yards. So I really hope this is informative for you guys. If not, leave a comment down below on things that we didn't touch upon you want us to elaborate on. And I think we're going to revisit this at some point again anyway, because there's other things that, I mean, there's like specific baits we could talk about too that I'd like to be able to do at some point. Yeah. So go ahead, guys. Take a minute. Go ahead and plug yourselves for your socials, websites, your stream tomorrow night on Big Bass Streams, the whole 9 yards. I'll let you 3 fight it out, decide who wants to talk for that.
You're pointing at me. Everybody's pointing at me. Yeah. So every Thursday we do our Big Bass Streams live stream. It's live on our YouTube. You can donate $5, enter a giveaway if it's a giveaway week. So just hop on, check it out, see where our guest is every week. It's 9 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Hop on, see who it is. Yeah, it'll be fun. I mean, come check it out, come hang, ask questions a lot like 603's podcast. And, join in. We'll draw your question more than likely. We try to get to as many as possible, which is usually around anywhere from like 70 to 80% of them. And we'll try to make it a show for the viewers.
Yep.
But we have a special guest every week that kind of dives in that helps us choose the topic. Like this week is Bobby Barrick.
That man has caught more frogfish than everybody watching and us combined.
So yeah, we're going to be giving away a bunch of frogs. I think Oliver's got a bunch to give away. I got a bunch to give away. Mike's hopefully remembered he's supposed to get a few to give away. And so yeah, if you come donate, we'll enter you in for a raffle and get you guys some cool stuff.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys again very much for joining us tonight. Greatly appreciate it.
Definitely. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
everybody in the Northeast. You guys are nice people.
No, we're not.
Except for the dock, Baron.
Everybody except for those mass people.
Yeah, I was
I can
just
say
about
that.
to
I was
say, we
originally
just have
from
to
there.
keep him away from Mass.
Nah, Mass has been great to me. Y'all tripping. You just think you guys are. Never mind.
All right, Andrew, signing off. Oh, I know who the guest is for next week.
I don't.
Okay. Well, I'll do the guest part. So next week we have Derek, the owner of Beast Coast Fishing, on.
Oh, cool.
We're going to talk about some of the newer baits that he has, the Blade Runner, Flip and Delight, and then his new jigs, which Mike was already very vocal about. It was more than 2 J's yesterday than you were, but that was damn funny until they made fun of me about you catching bigger fish than me. But anyway, that's the plan for next week on Real Northern Bass. But go ahead, buddy, do your sign off. We'll get the hell out of here.
Thank you, Joe, Oliver, and Mike for joining us again.
Thank you.
Let's click.
Just like every week.
Kick Mike out.
It's like every week. Wednesday at 8 o'clock
Oh, no.
Eastern time at
do this.
youtube.com/603bass. Be there. Bye.
Hey, you did a good job.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Woo!